Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, the DC Comics podcast from Multiverse TV. This is episode 206. I want to say, I could be wrong. I think that's right.
Shambles.
I'm Peter. Joining me as always, shambling over there is Matt.
Yep. Hi. This week sucks.
Connor's also here too.
I mean, this week isn't that terrible.
I mean, given the comparison to like the week before,
yeah,
it's not as bad, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things.
Still pretty bad, I admit.
You know, so 2020 is a bit of a hellfire year.
It's the worst roller coaster I've ever been on, and I keep getting stuck going for the loop, and I just want to get off, and you can't get off.
Do you know, see when the virus all started up and we got to this point where we were like, oh man, do you remember February before all this stuff started closing and all that? I would never have predicted that something else would happen in June or end of May, give or take, that would make us then forget the virus being that big a thing. It's like, no, now there's something else we're all thinking about. And I mean, yeah, the virus is still there, but...
Here's the thing. They're saying that wave 2 is coming, but here's the thing. We never got out of wave 1. So this is just wave 1 continued.
Yeah, and if I was in the pool and the wave machine was on, that would excite me almost, because I'd be like, whoa, the wave's cool. It's just waves. After waves, it's just a fun wave. Pandemic waves aren't fun.
Not this one.
No. This is a death wave. That's
this
not
is
ideal.
So there's a wave that you can surf in Tahiti called Chopu that's known as the world's heaviest wave because of how it hits. All the water lands on top of this reef. So when you get pulled under, that's it. That's what 2020 is. 2020 is Chopu, and you're a novice surfer. You have no business being there. And
it's such a Matt analogy.
I know. Matt turning those wave comments into a surfing thing is the most Matt thing he's done this week so far. So,
and that includes some comments he just said to us before we started recording that were pretty, top tier Matt.
Yes. Everyone go watch What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show. It's very good. The season 2 finale was very good. I'll get that out of the way before I tell you what comics are coming this week. There's a DC Comics podcast, believe it or not. We talk about comics every week, and coming up on this week's show, we have, before we even get to the books, we have Solicits, September Solicits, exciting, although we complained about Newsarama getting incorporated into Games Radar this week. Matt didn't really seem to care that much last week, but now he's actually had to use the website. He's livid.
Yeah, but once a month I have to use their website. And this is the following week. This is BS. Use harsh letters.
So the books we're going to talk about today is the Joker 80th Anniversary Special 100-page extravaganza thingamajig. We got Batman 92, that's back, finally. We got Justice League 46, The Flash 755, Legion of Superheroes issue 6, Lois Lane number 11, that's the new books, and then Connor's also got a Patreon book that he did this week. So there we go. That is what's coming up on today's show. A reasonably hefty amount. Got a big special issue. Got the Solicits. This should be a nice rollicking time journey through the comics. There's some more news as well after Solicits, but Solicits being obviously the main event, as they always are when they come out. So yeah. So buckle in. Get your air conditioning on should you have it. Unless you're outside listening to this, which you might be. In fact, many people might be in the park listening to this. Maybe you go to the park, you sunbathe.
Remember, keep socially distant, people. Still, go to the park.
A nice stroll in the
away.
Summer weather.
Do you know, speaking of social distance,
having.
Speaking of social distance, there was advice. I think it was from New York. There was advice of like, okay, now that things are starting to reopen, if you're having casual sex, maybe consider resisting any face contact. Keep it to sexual organs only. And all I could think was, wait, are you advocating the glory hole? Is that what you're saying now?
Oh yeah, they did. They actively said if you can have any coverings, walls between you. They actively mentioned walls.
Hey, look, I'm not trying to kink shame, but maybe don't do that right now.
What, specifically the glory hole, or just sex in general, Matt?
I mean, look, I'm not a prude, but maybe not with strangers on the other side of a wall. I just, I don't know, man.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I figured that if something could be transmitted through your face, that it could equally be transmitted with sexual organ contact. Am I incorrect in that assumption?
Yes. You are incorrect.
I am okay. I assumed all the juices perhaps would also transmit said things.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No,
Alright.
it's a respiratory thing. It's
Okay.
through droplets through.
Fair enough.
So again, I just don't. People, come on.
So this is actually quite
I'm
fascinating.
super bummed out.
So, so like the flus and things like that are actually mutually exclusive from sexually transmitted. They're completely different forms of transmuting things.
Yeah.
That's okay. There you go. I've learned something today. Fascinating.
Well, germ theory. So, it's a virus.
So-
Viruses want to spread.
So what I'm hearing right now is that a glory hole should then be safe.
Yeah, that's why they recommended them.
And I'm still saying, it's still, guys.
I think the unsafe element becomes when a man, he's not washed his hands necessarily, and then uses his hands to insert certain things through a hole. Then certain objects may be contaminated on the surface rather than the fluids within.
Okay, I'm going to have to put like an adult warning at the start of this episode now with the following
I
question.
haven't watched, but I just checked my time because I don't want to be here.
Right. Let's say, okay, I'm not saying this is recommended right now, but let's say oral sex is happening, right?
Droplets, not good.
Right, I'm just like, it could be either way, right? I suppose, but the person giving the oral sex, or the person receiving the oral sex, more specifically, can they catch something because they're in contact with the person's mouth? Can their sexual organ take in the thing? No.
No, but
Well, hold on. There's a
they
mucous
have
membrane.
presumably left their saliva on their body, and if they then touch that and then end up touching their face, that could transmit it.
Right. So
Okay.
this particular virus wants to populate inside the lungs and throat, right? And it's spread through droplets. So you would assume anywhere with a mucous membrane,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, I ain't trusting no strange mouth. Put that on a t-shirt.
I'm sure your wife will be delighted to hear it, Matt.
Yes. I'm saying, even if I was single, no. Not now.
There. All right. Okay. Right.
Well, this started in an unusual place.
Apologies
Shambles.
for the.
This week I said this week sucks.
we're definitely talking about sucking. That's definitely happening.
Yeah.
So we'll get off the oddly adult materials. We don't usually do this on the show, but the occasion called for it. Okay.
It's all Peter's fault. He started it.
Did.
Look, the government was recommending glory holes to the masses. All right, that's noteworthy discussion. In a year where all of the news is miserable, horrible in a variety of ways, that one little point is fantastically amusing.
A really fun fact on this sort of topic from the UK government in the past couple of weeks. So the UK government legislated that going into other people's houses without reason, if you didn't live there, was illegal. So if you and your partner lived in separate houses, you couldn't actually visit each other.
But the vagina's fair game. You can go in there. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. Here's the thing. When they loosened these restrictions, they changed it to say anyone could go into a house, someone else's house, for work purposes. So you could hire a sex worker to come into your house, but you could not bring your own girlfriend in.
All right, we'll move on. Hey, that last minute, Matt, was better than the glory holes. You must have felt more comfortable.
True.
Yeah. Don't worry, everyone. Don't worry, everyone. Since we can't have sales figures anymore, we'll have glory hole updates every month. Don't worry.
There's a show Joel McHale used to host called The Soup, and there was a show that he used to cover called, I think it was like Alaskan Gold Rush or something, but it was these bearded Alaskan miners that were constantly talking about the glory hole, which is a mining term for, that's where the mother lode is.
As if it works properly.
Yeah, right. And that was the whole entire joke, was them constantly saying going into the glory hole. And that's what just this reminded me of.
It's low-hanging fruit, isn't it?
True.
Yeah.
For some reason, in my head, I just thought of Matt Hardy yelling the whole of glory.
The whole of glory. God. All right, we need to get him. I know people that know him, so I need to send that along. I don't even want any credit. I just want to see him pop out on Dynamite and yell, "Oh, the mighty hole of glory!"
No, he has to say it as he's walking into the bathroom,
Yes.
just for maximum comic effect.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Comic books news.
Solicits.
Solicits. Speaking of soliciting,
You could call the Solicits the glory hole of the show.
I mean, you could. I don't know why you would, but I mean, I suppose you could.
You could.
when I cut this up for the individual YouTube sections, I need a good starting point. I can't start on. You could call the Solicits the glory hole.
If that doesn't get people to stick around, then nothing will.
Hashtag glory hole.
All right. September Solicits came out, and there's some interesting stuff in here. Some meaty month. And we'll try not to complain too much. Why are you laughing at that? Are you laughing at the word me? Is the word me just sexualized for you now?
I think it is, but he's laughing. I just love when Matt started chuckling. It just got me.
You're talking about a meaty month in the glory hole. That's all.
I mean, I'll put this part of the Solicit news out of here since it seems to be relevant to the conversation. Dick is coming. Dick is back. He's back in September.
We will get to the details as we go through.
Yes, that was
in Gotham have to be filthy.
Highlight of my week was tweeting out "Dick is coming," knowing full well what I was doing. With the image of Dick in the Nightwing suit again. Okay, so my Solicits page. Where are we? Here we go. So obviously the big thing this month, which we did not really kind of expect, although I'm not surprised now that I've realised, because I'll be honest, I wasn't keeping track of the numbers, maybe because we weren't reading Detective, it wasn't in the forefront of my mind. But we have Detective Comics 1027, which they are treating as a big anniversary special. In fact, even bigger. This is bigger than the other ones. This is 144 pages. This behemoth, and it is, you know, because obviously if you're unaware of this off the top of your head, Batman didn't actually appear in Detective Comics 1. Technically celebrating 1,000 issues of Detective, while it was accurately 1,000 issues, Batman himself didn't actually make his first appearance until issue 27. So that's kind of what they're celebrating here. They're celebrating 1,000 issues of Batman in Detective Comics.
It's the same way that when we were in the New 52, they did Detective Comics 27.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
That one's
makes sense. This is a reach.
I think that one's more of a reach than this one is. This one makes more sense to me than the New 52 one.
Yeah, at least this is actually 1,000 issues since Batman, whereas that was just, hey, we made 27 issues. Let's go crazy.
Because
but
you could renumber after every
the number.
You could renumber. You could renumber after every 27 issues. So every 27 issues, you could do a special. Like, you know.
I don't know how long it's been. What, 2 years since Detective 1000? 18 months. Yeah. So
it's double shipping, isn't it? So give or take.
So.
It's only been a year, just over a year. Because Action was 2018, Detective was 2019, was it not?
There you go. Well, I'm trying to see what Detective Comics was about before.
Yeah, it was March, April last year.
Yeah, fair enough.
What they seem to be doing with this, though, is they're kind of celebrating the Bat family. They're all kind of like Batman and one of the family members for the variant covers rather than decades, because they've done Batman decades already. For obvious reasons, because Detective 1000. So some interesting stuff in there from that sense. Oh, they're all Bat family. Like Superman's in one of them, to be fair.
And then villains.
Yeah. A Batman Nightwing cover, Batman and Batgirl, Batman and Batwoman, Batman and Robin. Batman. I love how Batman and Robin's like the fourth one. You'd think that'd be first. The first one you'd think of is Batman and Robin, but yeah, whatever. So hell of a list of creators on this though. It's the sort of thing where you're like, oh, I did one of these specials, but then you look at this list of writers, you're like, Bendis, Kelly Sue, Matt Fraction, Tom King, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, Scott Snyder, Mariko Tamaki, Peter J. Tomasi, James Tynion IV, Marv Wolfman, and others. I mean, I feel sorry for others trying to live up to that list.
A lot of artists as well. I know Chip Zdarsky is doing the story with Fraction.
Yeah, there's a lot of good artists, and then Riley Rosmo's on that list as well. Because
and John Romita Jr. as well, which is probably the Bendis story.
Because every single time I'm reading one of these specials, and I'll get to this later with the Joker one, but I get to that story that's the Riley Rusmore, and I just die a little inside, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Or you just skip it.
I mean, I could have done, but you know what? I was like, no.
I'm gonna be forward right now. Is that I only read up to the Tom Taylor story, and then I was like, I'm done. I can't take anymore. So.
And that's okay, fair enough. But
and Riley Rosmo had a lot to do with that. That just killed my momentum.
I mean, I could somewhat understand that, but we'll talk about that later. So yeah, we got a big list of creators here. I mean, we've had a bunch of these. The most interesting is they're doing a hardcover of this, simultaneously, which is an interesting.
And it's got like 30 more pages, 20.
Yeah, more, I assume more pinups, extras, maybe one extra story or something like that. I don't know.
If I'm gonna get this physically, I might as well just get the deluxe, right? Like,
sure,
for $10 more. Because I have both the detective and the action that I bought physically on my shelf. So, because they're thicker.
I wonder if there's any extra stories in it, because I noticed on the deluxe edition, in the artists, it mentions Dan Jurgens and Dan Mora, and I don't see.
No, Dan Moore's on there.
Oh, Dan Moore's there. I don't see Dan Jurgens.
Yes, well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like one extra 10-page story, some extra pin-ups, and some extras at the back. Probably accounts for that extra 30 pages. That'd be my guess, but
it is twice the price, though. I mean, naturally, you pay more because it's the hardcover.
Hardcover right, and deluxe size, so it's bigger pages as well. So
it's bigger, more, and there's more. It's not the same exact thing.
So I mean,
worth noting that's not on sale at the same time.
No.
Oh yeah, quite right. That comes in November.
November, yeah.
So
right.
I was about to actually say, hey, that's a good idea, putting it out at the same time so people can just go straight to it rather than having to buy the original version and upgrade. Right. But
you really think they're going to miss out that chance to double dip on some people?
I know, foolish.
So, in the Detective 1000, did we get a Rucka Kate Kane story? Because that was his run.
I don't think so.
In tech.
No, I don't remember that.
I don't remember there being one.
I don't either. So I'm wondering if that's what's going to be his story here. Because
yeah, Batman and Batwoman will be his story.
The deluxe edition actually tells us some of the teams a bit better. Bendis is with Marquez, so I take back what I said about Romita Jr.
Is it possible to get Romita Jr. and Riley Rosmo in the same story somehow? Just to get them out in one punch?
Rucka is with Riso doing Gotham Central.
Yeah,
so
that's
not
Batwoman.
I'm okay with that though.
Yeah. Yep. Morrison and Burnham back together. That makes sense.
Action and Chip doing Batman v Joker. Yeah. Batman Incorporated. Yeah.
Yeah, Chip there dipping his toes in some more DC I'm seeing there. Yeah. That's interesting little sequence of events. Luckily, I mean, having actually scheduled out what our month looks like for that month, this actually nicely falls in a week with almost no other books. There's like 3 other books that week, so they've actually put it in a nice place for us at least. I don't know if that's. I mean, it's probably true because typically we tend to mirror kind of. Obviously, we're a little bit less than what the full amount is, but we tend to mirror more or less what the overall feeling per week is in terms of amount. So. Yeah, that's good. That's good. At least it comes in a week that's easier to read. So that's Detective Comics 1027. Obviously, we're not currently reading Detective, but this is obviously a special occasion with a lot of good creators. The only name missing from that writer list is Tom Taylor, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So there you go.
More on him later.
Yes, exactly. Batman 3 Jokers issue 2 coming out as expected. Not really much to say here, but it's coming. Good.
Yeah.
Going. Deceased Dead Planet issue 3, similar idea. We knew it was coming. It's on its way. Some interesting.
Is it me or does Cassie look like Captain Marvel here a little bit?
A little bit.
I can see it. Yeah. What's the movie variant for this one, or is it? Oh, they've got arrows.
I don't know. Oh, they do have arrows. You're right. Oh.
Yeah. I can't.
Oh,
tell,
it's V for Vendetta. There's another one.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's D for Deceased. I mean, it's actually really obvious when you read the thing.
Oh, I didn't read the title. That makes much more sense.
You know what? I kind of like these arrows being right here. Took forever to load, but that's not bad.
I can confirm that's more of a Mac computer issue than the site itself.
Oh, of course. Your computer's old and it could die at any minute.
Oh, but there's a lot of things on this site that
Take me
run
with you, computer.
run like crap for me as well. So I'm just making it clear that that's specifically just a hardware issue. So yeah, Deceased, obviously look forward to it. Top Taylor. Then we got something that Snyder actually sort of revealed himself earlier in the week, but we got 3 more special one-shots coming in September. And this is the month that the main book's taken off, so there's no actual issue of the main series, but there's 3 oversized specials.
Just 3 tie-ins that are most likely you have to read to continue the story.
I think one of them is important, and it feels very much in the vein of the one shot we got in the break month in the original.
That's the one that's written by Snyder himself, but they all have good teams, I think. So
I'm gonna get all of them, and it's not because of completionism, but because they all sound
interesting
really
or
fun.
good.
Yeah, and they all feel like good things to cover for the show, obviously. Here's what they are. So the first one is Dark Knight's Death Metal Trinity Crisis issue 1. That's the one that's written by Snyder with art by Manipul, so that's cool. And then we got Dark Knight's Death Metal Speed Metal issue 1. I'm going to stop saying Dark Knights at the start of these because it's just awkward.
You know.
So that's by Joshua Williamson with art by Eddie Barrows and Eber Ferreira.
And that's featuring all the flashes.
Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting take.
Most of the flashes.
And then we got Death Metal Multiverse's End issue 1, which is James Tynion IV with art by Juan Gaydon. I'm going to say I was probably butchering that last name.
Gaydon.
But yeah, no, interesting mix. I do kind of like that they're spread out as well. Again, these are, and they're dodging that that week that the detective special's on, so they're evenly spread.
The Multiverse End has quite the unique team that I'm very interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got Owlman, we've got President Superman from Morrison's Action stuff.
Right.
Guy Gardner's on there, Captain Carrot.
Which Earth was that? Do you remember? Was that Earth 9?
9, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Come here, Guy Gardner. Yeah. I just love the fact that they're naming these after metal genres. Like, because speed metal. Like, now I'm going to have to track down some speed metal to have on in the background while I read that.
I'll hook you up, don't worry, Matt.
Yeah, is Multiverse's End the metal that I've not heard of, Matt?
Well, no, because there's another in here that I think it's the Williamson one that he's doing for the tie-in for Justice League, and it's called Doom Metal. There's another.
Okay.
So it seems like it's Williamson more than DC.
As you say that, the very next thing here is Justice League 53. So Williamson's doing a 5-issue arc. The art in this issue that specifically is Xermanico. Notably, there's only one issue, seemingly, unless there's another issue Justice League further down in the main bunch.
I think it's 52.
Yeah,
it's the end of the 2-parter that we spoke about.
Fair enough. So we got 53 because they put all the sort of the big issues at the top before it gets alphabetical. So he's in a 5-issue arc tying into Death Metal. So I'm interested to see Williamson write a Justice League book.
And I think it's worth noting as well that it's not really a Justice League book because it's
there's different characters.
Nightwing and Lex.
Yes, Dick Grayson, Nightwing.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
I mean, a very metal version of it.
Sure.
A very shirtless version of it in a quite great Liam Sharp cover.
Yeah, with Detective Chimp looking like a proper warrior.
Yeah.
He's learned.
I would argue that Dick's almost Mad Max looking with those shoulder fur thingamajigs he's got going.
It reminds me of, I don't think it was metal, but there was a crossover that we had before where he was in Gotham and it was all like he was in a team and he's all in like metal shoulder pads and stuff.
No, that was metal. That was the tie-in, one of the few tie-ins that they did. I forget what book it was in. I think it was the Teen Titans and I think it was the Teen Titans and Titans crossover that they had. It was what was going on in Gotham when the Mountain showed up.
I remember Cedric drawing it.
Yeah, I recall that.
This design reminds me a lot of that, like type in style at least.
Yeah, he looks like a barbarian. It's dope.
Yeah. So then we have, this was also news this week before the Solicits, but Tom Taylor revealed what his next book was that he'd been teasing that is unrelated to Deceased, which was kind of a notable thing because he's been doing a lot, obviously. And it is a Black Label book, a 3-issue mini called Hellblazer, Rise and Fall, and issue 1 obviously is out in September. Now, this is, from a personal point of view, this is kind of this weird bittersweet thing because I'm always down for new Taylor books. But somehow he managed to pick one of the few DC characters that I am so not interested in.
On another personal note, for me, this is like a dream project. Like, I get one of my favorite writers on a character that I love. Yes, please. My only disappointment about this is that it's 3 issues only, and it's bi-monthly, which would lead you to believe, it's the double size, like deceased thing that we get, but no, it's just regular size.
Yeah,
Still
and it's
disappointing.
Black Label. So Black Label keeps going. That's good.
Yeah, it mentions the size trim, so I'm assuming it's slightly different, and maybe it's the widescreen one that we've had on a couple of things.
What happened to the Super Prestige label that was going to make that obvious? That was the whole thing. It was because there was going to be not Prestige. Sorry, there was a term. They started putting a term in the Solicits just a few months ago, or a few Solicits ago. That was like it distinguished between the new format really obviously, but they've stopped using it already.
I don't recall, but the others obviously don't mention the trim, whereas this one does. So I'm assuming this is different. I'd have to check whether or not it lines up with the other one.
Yeah, it is bi-monthly. It's worth mentioning, although it's actually normal size in terms of page count.
I just said all of this.
I wasn't listening to you.
It was literally my entire point that I just said.
Yeah.
Look, I do the core. I always do the core information.
Yeah. And then he brought up that it's 8.5 by 10, and whatever 0.8.
Look, I always do the core information because I'm the one actually writing the conversation. So I just assume if I zone you out that I still come back in and do that, and that's just always going to be the case. So
maybe you should be more responsible and pay attention when other people are talking.
How do I listen to you talk about Hellraiser or Hellblazer?
What are you saying, Connor?
Hellraiser, maybe, but. Yeah. Did someone speak, Matt? Someone said something. I had like a faint whisper in the distance.
I'm not listening to either of you. What's going on?
That's a lie, you know it. Let's talk about something really exciting here. Batman the Joker.
No, you're skipping over a book, and that is not fair.
But it's not like a proper DC book.
A book that nobody reads here.
I read it.
Okay. So I take it back.
Alright, fine. We have our black label called The Last God, Songs of the Lost Children. I have no idea what this is. What is it?
It's a one-shot tying into the Last God book that's been going on. That's like 5 or 6 issues in, I think.
I don't believe you. This book does not exist. I don't believe Connor.
Do you want me to pull a copy out from behind me and show you? Because I will.
Just because you've made the fake prop in advance to win this argument does not mean anything, right?
Yeah, all right.
Doesn't exist.
Now you can talk about the one you're actually excited about.
Yes. So, Batman the Joker Warzone issue 1, obviously it's a one-shot tying into, the Joker War, right? What's notable here is the cover for this. We've got Stephanie Brown in her spoiler outfit, which looks, by the way, the art in this is fantastic, this cover. Ben Oliver.
This is the variant cover, I think it's worth noting.
This is the variant, okay.
Yeah.
So the art's actually by...
For some reason, on this new Newsarama system, they put all the variants first. I don't know.
Anyway, the other character on this, though, is Cassandra Cain, but notably in her Batgirl outfit. So that gets some attention, I think. So this is written by James Tynion IV, John Ridley, and Joshua Williamson, which tells me, given that it's 48 pages, that it's going to have 3 stories, rather than they're sharing, duty on one story.
We know for a fact that Tynion is doing the story with Steph and Cass.
That's exciting.
He actively said it's Batgirls. He used that that word very specifically and shared an internal panel of the two of them together with with Cass in the Batgirl outfit in the story. It's not just the variant cover.
Lead to a book. Come on, Tynion. Lead this to a book. Do it for me.
And her costume doesn't look stitched together too, which is a nice touch. Like it's actually new. It doesn't look pieced together like her last one.
I was going to say, except the mouthpiece, which is very intentionally stitched together.
Right.
Yeah. No, I dig it. So, super exciting, and I'm pumped. This is a thing where there's a tie-in, oversized one-shot to Joker War. Maybe that's a skip, and then I'm like, no, it's not a skip. This is almost the must-read of the week.
It's really hit and miss on the art, where you've got Guillem on one, but then you got James Stokoe on one story, and oh boy.
The sad part is that because March has been doing art in Batman, he might be doing the Tynion story, which is the one that I'm most excited for. But
probably is. But James Stokoe, his art's fantastic.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, honestly, the other writers aren't bad either, so it's not like I'm not looking forward to the other stories as well. But obviously, that's the main thing. You got Batman 98 and 99 coming out. 99 being the one that's got Dick in the Nightwing outfit. on the cover, and it even says in the solicit text that Dick Grayson's returned to.
Yeah, it says,
Gotham.
"Can Dick reclaim his lost memories in time to join the battle?" I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes.
Yes.
Which actually weirdly makes our long time ago prediction of issue 100 being the triumphant return.
That's right. Yeah,
Probably
we said that.
Even though he's on the cover for 99, it's going to be about whether or not he will be back. For, 100, he'll be there.
There's a good chance that the ending page might be him in costume showing up. Yeah, I know it's on the cover, but the covers sometimes spoil the ending rather than anything else. So, I mean, there's a good chance that it technically will be issue 100 where it's really like him properly back.
And he's featured on the Jimenez 1 in 25. Too.
Yeah, that's the cover we're on about. It is, yeah.
But that they look like reference points because there's the Catwoman one in 98. That's the same. So yeah, and the fact he'll probably be featured in this issue.
Yeah, the fact that two of these covers, are prominently featuring Nightwing, I have to imagine that it's kind of the main point of the issue is that he's there and trying to become who he was again, in some capacity. So,
time fixing things for us, left, right, and center.
Yeah, thanks, Tynion. Well, that's appreciated.
And you know why he was able to do that?
Why?
Because Didio's not there.
Hey, if having books on Tuesday and not through Diamond is the price of getting real Dick Grayson back, I pay it gladly.
Yeah. Oh, so a little bit of update on that. My shop, I talked to them, and they were, as I was there on Wednesday picking up my books, they were setting up their ordering system to start getting their DC books. So I can read a list, but they did stress that they're not ordering as much as they used to. Mm-hmm. So if I want something, I have to let them know in advance. So I'm gonna start writing stuff down. Yeah, which I didn't have to do before, but that's when stuff's coming all in one shipment, it's easier to order more things. So, but yeah, I was told if you want something, because I still don't have Hell Arisen 3.
That's on you.
Well, not by now. Just it's I blame the pandemic because I should have had it by now. They ordered me one.
Yeah.
For Christ's sakes.
I'm fairly certain that our patron David actually just sold like an issue, like a copy of that issue for profit. So
yeah. I'm sure my shop only got 2 of the original first printings, and speculators came and snatched them up. So F you if that's you. You're all playing into the system like a bunch of idiots. So yeah.
All right. Next up, Batgirl. 49, so that's about hit 50, which is cool. Obviously, we did give up on this because it had a continuous streak of issues that we weren't into. We kind of just became clear that we didn't really like Cecil Castellucci's writing all that much. But
I'm assuming 50 is going to be oversized because we've got some 25s this month that are oversized.
Oh yeah, I expect it, and which is fair, and I'm happy that it's making 50 issues, given that it's kind of on that line where Supergirl couldn't make it. And a lot of these books, it's kind of sad how there's so many, unless you're one of the big characters or teams, the chances of you even getting close to 50 issues is...
Do you know what 50 should be? 50 should be the last issue. Should be a final issue tag, and it should be the final Barbara issue for a while. And then we relaunch with a new number 1.
I know where you're going with this.
It doesn't have to be Cass. It doesn't have to be Steph. Just a new Batgirl. I mean, I'll take either of those or someone new entirely.
I'll take both.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll take all 3.
All 3. Yeah.
Let Tynion do his Batgirls book.
It's not like she's ever been part of Birds of Prey, so let her have a Batgirls team.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'll take all 3. So
also, I just want to point out to the Solicits they're looking for a redheaded killer or a killer of redheads, and it's not me. I just want to put it out there. Bob traces the Batgirl obsessed redheaded murders or redhead murders back to their source. It's not me. Just want to put that.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Next up, Catwoman issue 25. Ram V taking over the reins. And it is an oversized issue because it's the issue 25, which is fair play.
I feel bad for Ram V because I don't know if this is his first issue in the book or the second. We obviously talked about it in the last couple of weeks. I can't remember if that was in the last Solicits or not. But either way, this is his first or second issue, and it's immediately a tie-in to Joker War.
Yeah, that's a bit rough, especially if all the stories are, or it depends how it's split up. But I will note this though, Jean Faria's back doing a little bit of DCR,
Yeah.
and notably also Jean-Paul Leon, because I actually really like his art, and he's not been around in a while, so that's nice to see too.
Yeah. Because this is I think it's just extra backup tales is what they're doing for this.
Yeah, probably.
Oversized.
Yeah, that's it. It's 48 pages though, so it's actually there's enough there to have a full size regular story plus.
And then like 2 slightly shorter stories.
Yeah, but not super short though. Not like so because sometimes you get these backups that are like 46 pages. They're still
These will be good like 10, 12 pages each, maybe.
Yeah. So that's cool. Nightwing 74. Notably, still Rick Grayson in the text for this one, so clearly it's getting fixed in Batman, and then Nightwing will reflect it after the fact.
Yep. Which is exactly what happened in the first case.
Yep. So Superman 25, Bendis, and this is probably a good place to actually slot in some other news here, since we're talking about Bendis Superman. Now, it's not in the solicits, and DC actually took the interview down, or asked to take the interview down, where Bendis said that he's coming to a close on his Superman run. The fact that he said it, the way it was phrased in the quote, and the fact that DC don't want anyone to really know about it yet, although at this point, who cares, because everyone clearly knows already now.
Yeah.
I would assume...
I have the exact quote here with an update as well.
Well, I was going to say, I would assume that means that, okay, we're coming, he's working to a close, but it sounds like he's working to a close on his writing of it, so it's probably still, I don't know, a bit of time for us.
Yeah, but we know there's a finish line now. It's not just going to be,
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if there's another year of like the comics coming out for us.
Could be, because so his original quote was, he said, I'm heading towards the end of my run on Superman, so I've been more reflective on it, and this was in the Off Panel podcast that he was doing this in.
Which to me that doesn't sound like it's going to be done in October. It doesn't sound that quick.
Because obviously people were asking him about it this week because obviously they put the podcast up, people heard it, it was there for however long, and then it got taken down, presumably at DC's request. But there's no point in hiding it. Bendis has kind of accepted he said those things, and he did actually say, someone asked him about it, and he said it's so far away, kind of a non-headline. Don't worry about it today.
Yeah.
Which supports, it's probably going to be at least another 6 months. Which assuming that when he talks about his run on Superman, he means Superman and Action together.
Yeah.
That's another year's worth of issues probably.
It may even be longer than that because he says he's drawing to an end. Like, does he mean that he's now just planning what he's going to write in those final issues, which could again, that like. So yeah, there's going to be a finish line, but like I say, this could literally be another year of his run before it's actually over.
It could be. I don't know how far in advance Bendis typically works. I don't know his work schedule.
And besides, like him saying he's drawn to a close, that could just mean that he's about to start writing, like say, the final arc rather than the final issues themselves. Like, it could be, I'm just starting my end game. So
it could well be. Yeah.
The phrase is open enough that it doesn't sound like he's going to be done by the end of the year. It doesn't feel like that.
No, but on a personal note, it's nice to know that I have a chance at maybe reading Superman again at some point by the end of next year.
Well, and that doesn't mean he's going to be done with Action. He could just actually be meaning Superman, the
honestly,
title.
I'd be surprised.
I would be surprised as well, but I've said multiple times I'd be more than okay with that. I'm very happy for him to have one book and someone else have another. So in the same way that we've got Batman and Detective on different teams, I like that because it gives variety and it gives me a chance to read one of them and not the other.
So yeah, that's Superman 25, which again is a oversized issue because it's issue 25, so that's cool. Then we have Wonder Woman 762 and 763, Mirko Tamaki's run, still going, of course, which we're not even started yet, but just looking forward to it. So
yeah,
that's cool. Then we got Strange Adventures issue 5. There is a slight mistake in the solicit here, which felt like a mistake, kind of, because it was like kind of just out of nowhere. It said bi-monthly, which it isn't. It was confirmed on Twitter later that it isn't.
The way it was confirmed is Mitch Gerrard saw this article, because there were specific articles pointing it out, and he was like, "Wait, is it? No one told me. I'm here working on like issue 7 or 8 or whatever it was." He said that he's in the middle of drawing at the minute, and so he's already ahead, like by a considerable margin, and ultimately him passing that along, DC went, "Yeah, that was kind of just a mistake." Yeah,
so that's cool. Cover is gorgeous, of course. I haven't seen what's the other one look like. Oh, the other one's pretty nice too, but the one with Alana is the one I was looking at though, with the red and the yellow behind her.
Yeah, the Garrett's.
Yeah. Really good stuff. A couple of those young adult trade paperbacks, or graphic novels, maybe more accurate.
This one
coming
I
out.
really like the idea of Victor and Nora, a Gotham love story. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there was another one announced this week that I don't know if it's somewhere else in the solicits. It's weird that it's not here with this section. But they're doing a Black Canary one. That was like, it was like a younger Black Canary sort of thing, as these books typically are in Gotham versus Court of Owls. But,
The other one's Teen Titans Go, roll with it. And then we're on to the regular issues here. We got Action Comics 1025, which they're not treating as a special. They're not treating 1025 as a special number.
No,
to be fair,
but you've still got Romita Jr.
Well, see, I'm worried now that because he's drawing to a close, quote unquote, that Romita's just going to be there until he's done, which would be very upsetting. We got Amethyst issue 6, Aquaman is 63. It's also a pretty nice cover, actually. Now this is still the fill-in writer, but we knew this was a two-parter from the previous solicit. So
yeah, it's a gorgeous variant though, the Tyler Kirkham one.
Well, let me go over and see it. Oh, that is pretty nice. Yeah. We got Batman: The Adventures Continue issue 4. Which is cool. We got Batman the Outsiders 16. I honestly, because of how often art has changed these days, I'm just happy to still see Dexter Soy on the art and that. I was like, oh, that's shockingly consistent. I'm pleased. Batman Beyond 47, the book that just keeps on going.
Ain't gonna stop it.
Yeah, Jurgen has just got a payday with that. Batman's Grave issue 10. We got Batman Superman issue 12. Is that Brainiac things we're doing on that? But from that cover,
looks like it.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, it mentions Brainiac in the text.
And we got Batman Superman Annual issue 1, which is out because it's a 5th week, a 5-week month in September. Notably, they've actually spread out. The second issue of Wonder Woman, for example, I think is on the 5th week, so they have spread things out a little bit to make it even, which is nice. But there's a couple of annuals, Batman Superman being one of them, which is written by Williamson, so it hopefully means it's not going to be just completely irrelevant.
Yeah, and they've got some good artists on there. Dale Eaglesham, Gleb Melnikov. He had a great thing on Twitter this week about how to draw Superman, and just the thickness of his neck essentially makes Superman look significantly better just by giving him a really straight, thick neck. Ignore human anatomy, just give him a thick neck and it works.
Yeah, but he's a farm boy. He should have a big, thick neck.
Yeah. But you look at it and he basically did like do this, not this, and it's like, oh yeah, it's really simple and it just makes such a massive difference.
Right.
We got a Flash issue 761 and 762. 762 being the finale to the run, right? To Williamson's run.
Finish line.
It is, and not a final issue, so they're not renumbering it.
Which I think we expected, just based because when they renumbered Flash and Wonder Woman, they did promise that there was no plans in the near future to renumber them. So that's would, if they did it now, I would say they'd broken that promise. If they do it in a year, whatever.
I actually think that 762 cover is gorgeous.
It is quite a nice cover. It's all the blank space really makes it work, but just the blood, because it says it's a top-down shot of Flash dragging reverses Flash's like essentially dead body, presumably, or if not
seemingly dead.
Yeah.
He's missing at least a gallon of blood.
Yeah.
So,
so obviously we'll talk about Flash later on today. So me and Matt will have thoughts on that. Green Lantern season 2 issue 7 coming out, and then
it's very Spectre-esque on that cover, doesn't he?
It does. Yeah, it's got the cloak and all that. Now I will say I have not been tempted at any point to want to catch up in Hawkman.
Because you're a terrible person who clearly doesn't listen to me and Matt rave about it every month about how it's one of DC's best books.
However, I will admit the cover here on the solicits for number 27 here does make it somewhat tempting, because the cover is a photograph of the Justice Society, and I can't. And it's also really, I mean, it's a pretty cover as well at that.
It's a Janin cover, which he's been doing a lot of the regular covers for Hawkman recently anyway. Probably the last 4 or 5.
Yeah.
but yeah. And they all look pulpy, like properly pulpy. I mean, the big high collar on Green Lantern.
I love the Sandman suit. I'm so. I mean, I'm always excited for Hawkman. It's consistently one of the best books DC is putting out, but somehow it made me even more excited. So good.
Yep. So that's Hawkman 27. Joker Harley Criminal Sanity issue 5 is coming out. Not much to say there. Just keeps on trucking. Justice League 52, as we mentioned earlier, that's the one before the tie-in starts. There's a Justice League annual issue 2, which interestingly is a one-off written by Venditti. So Venditti's actually back to Justice League for the annual, with art by Aaron Lopresti and Matt Ryan. So interesting.
This sounds a lot of fun.
I read the
Locked
text.
room murder mystery in the Hall of Justice. Oh yeah, I mean,
That does sound fun, actually.
Superman, an investigative journalist. Which, come on, Clark's good. That's more Lois, right? Like,
I get why they'll play it up for this story, though.
yeah,
I'll let it slide.
Batman, the world's greatest detective, The Flash, a CSI, Wonder Woman, a mystical detective for the Justice League Dark, and Green Lantern, an intergalactic police officer.
Matt, they might actually even have that in the narration. Superman might even talk about the fact that he's kind of trying to be Lois. He knows he's not as good at it, but he's doing his best.
But he's not bad at it either. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
Well, even though, like, I wouldn't say that he's an investigative journalist like Lois. I feel like he's just a regular beat journalist, because he's Superman. He doesn't have time to dig in. Sure. He's got to save cats from trees and, put out fires with a super breath. So, yeah.
So Justice League Dark 26 is next. What was I say? Just it's coming. Justice League Odyssey 24.
Variant on Justice League Dark, by the way.
Justice League Odyssey, 24.
Still not the final issue.
No, that's still going.
Nope.
Legion of Superheroes issue 9, which has a interesting cover with like all these different covers for each of the characters that are in the book, which is for a total of 16. Interesting idea.
Yeah.
This is the second part of the one last time, where it's each issue, each page is a story of one Legionnaire by a different team.
Well, the cover makes sense then, given that context. So no, pretty cool. And then, I actually thought one of them said Teen Wolf there before, but as I was scrolling down, it doesn't. But it's like, what is that?
It's Timberwolf.
Timberwolf. There you go. You say that
he's cool. He's like, oh yeah, he's like Wolverine of the Legion of Superheroes.
He's one of the handful of Legionnaires that when you say that name, I go, oh yeah, I know that one.
As you said that as if I should know who Timberwolf is.
I mean, have you not been reading the book?
Sure.
I haven't read the book, but first of all, it's been like 4 months since the last issue, so it was a bit of a struggle getting back in the swing of it this time.
Timberwolf's up there with Wildfire and Dawnstar, just instant Legion members. Like, those ones all stick out. Because they don't have a boy or lad or girl or lass after their name.
Metal Men 10 coming in September. So Didio's still got some DC input. I mean, I was enjoying that book. We fell behind on it, and then the apocalypse happened, so things got left behind. But Red Hood Outlaw 49. I can't believe Supergirl didn't make it to 50 issues, but Red Hood Outlaw is going to do it.
Well, from what we heard from Lobdell during the time off, it's ending, I presume, with 50 will be the final issue, by the way he was talking about it. I can't remember if he dated it specifically as that, but...
By the time that's done, he'll have had, what, like 100 issues on that book?
Easily.
Yeah. That's, because he was writing it all the way through New 52, more or less, right?
Not all the way through, but a lot of it.
Okay. Speaking of final issues, though, Shazam issue 15. So... Johns is doing like what that special like double-sized finale in 14, right? Meaning that 15 we have Jeff Loveness coming back for one just issue to wrap everything up. It sounds like a one-er story though. Cover's quite pretty. I will say like this will probably be a fine, fun one shot story, and that's cool. But I will say I'm a little disappointed because when Johns took Shazam, it kind of felt like I was hoping what happened to Aquaman in New 52 would happen to Shazam here, just in the sense that Aquaman, since that John's run, has consistently been popular enough to have a book at all times. Because before that, it was missing for a while.
I mean, yeah, but he's always had a lot more issues and books than Shazam ever has.
I mean, he has, but
well, I say ever. I mean, since DC had Shazam.
Yeah. I was hoping that this would propel Shazam enough to be like a consistent staple in the the ongoings. Like, there's always a Shazam book now. And it's a shame that it's just kind of fading out. And it's so weird because the movie did, fairly well, and they're making a sequel.
There's a sequel. We'll probably get a new book launching around the time of the sequel.
Probably.
I think you needed a more consistent team to make this a consistent, ongoing, long-term. And that's not a knock on the quality of the writing of the story or the art or anything. Just this needs to be out monthly to get it into people's heads that this is just going to be an ongoing book for years. The way it was so sporadic. People didn't get into a routine of thinking, "Oh, Shazam's going to be in it this month."
Sadly, that is That is the case. So it's a shame. It's a shame that it's having to go out like this, but hey ho. Suicide Squad issue 9. Obviously, we were excited for that. Taylor did kind of tease a big thing on Twitter.
I mean, yeah, it's in the solicit text.
Is it in the solicit text? Okay,
It's
well,
the first line.
in case you want to avoid this, though, I just want to make this clear. If you do want to avoid spoilers, because this feels especially spoilery for solicit text, but so yeah, Deadshot is going to die. He's going to kill Deadshot, the madman.
Allegedly.
Well, allegedly, yes. But you know, we joked back when this started. Oh well, Deadshot and Harley are the safe ones. The rest of them are fair game.
Yeah. Taylor
I want to
tweeted,
retract that
"Hey,
statement.
You all made this statement saying, well, Deadshot's safe because they're not going to let him kill Deadshot. And he's like, you shouldn't have said that. You made me do it.
Yeah. Well, he did say that on Twitter, right? Yeah. He goes, "This is on you guys."
And I was like,
well, you know, he ain't.
We said exactly that.
Yeah, but because we know he's not going to kill Harley. Like, that's, you know.
That's tempted fate.
With her being the fourth pillar and Jim Lee being the only.
I feel like
even if DC let him, I would feel afraid for his safety. Like, genuinely.
Yeah.
No, I think what's happening right now is Matt actually wants Harley dead. Matt is essentially putting a hit out on Harley Quinn right now by pushing his luck here.
I said when I covered the Birds of Prey, I do not have that distaste of Harley like I've had in the past because she can be properly used. So that's not true. However, Tom Taylor, do it or you're a coward.
All right, Teen Titans issue 45. That's still going along.
That's a book.
Young Justice 18 coming out. Noticeably also Stephanie Brown on this cover. I'm all for more Stephanie Brown in my life. So
and a very ugly Tim costume that I'd forgotten about because I'm not reading the book. I'd forgotten about it, and then I see this.
Yeah. So yes.
And everyone do for you absolutely nothing when you're Tim Drake.
Yeah, and then the Sandman stuff. We got Books of Magic 23. We got the Dreaming Waking Hours issue 2. John Constantine Hellblazer issue 10. And then we're at the hardcovers and trades and whatnot. The only thing I'll put out there is that I'm happy to see the next JSA by John's book and the next Peter David Young Justice books coming out. So that's nice.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Mr. Miracle getting a deluxe hardcover.
Yeah. No, that's good. All good things. So there you go. That is the September Solicits. Interesting batch. It's nice when there is. I mean, as much as we complain sometimes about there's been too many events or whatever, it is nice when there's something big with, you know, like Death Metal, like Three Jokers, that, you know, something to like really spice up. Because sometimes we do these solicits and there's like nothing for a month. It's just it's just the next issue of everything. There's like nothing newsworthy across the board. But no, there was some stuff in there. So there you go. That's solicits. There is some other stuff. We mentioned Bendis' Superman thing. Connor's got a few other stories here. Yeah,
we mentioned Metal there. Snyder, if you recall, around the time of the first Metal, posted like a flowchart of reading things, and he's done the same again for this, which is actually maybe announced some extra one shots and spin-off stuff that maybe he shouldn't have done. Because obviously in the October to December we have Death Metal 4 through 6, but it also points at some specials. 2 of them are named here, and it says Last 52. And
I like it.
Robin King.
Do you know, actually, what I'm going to say, I don't have really anything to say about Robin King, but on Last 52, combined with the fact that one of the one-shots in September is the Multiverse's End thing, I feel like he was really sort of downplaying back when all this, the news of Death Metal was coming out, and obviously we were going to have G5 or 5G as well. And I think it was really downplaying, Death Metal's not going to be the thing that resets things, we're not doing that, you know, the crisis side of things. I feel like the more of these one-shots being revealed, the more I'm getting this feeling like, no, this is kind of going to either reset the timeline, but they're definitely doing something with it.
I don't think he was
reshuffling the deck.
That, though. I think when he said that originally, this wasn't the plan, because there was going to be the Generations one-shots that would take care of that. So I think this has been more a reaction to, okay, well, things have changed, clearly, with the situation of what's going on. So now this is what it is. I don't think he was lying, though, when he said that originally.
No, I do think this is more akin to something like 0 Hour that's playing cleanup than a proper crisis that's restructuring.
That's a fair comparison.
You know what I mean?
But so, I do think there's going to be some relaunch books, though, coming out of this.
Well,
on that, we get to Death Metal 7 in January, and then it says February, question mark, exclamation mark. So I mean, there's gonna be stuff there that he's obviously not allowed to tease yet.
Yeah, but I do.
No,
want...
they're done. They're done with singles. That's it.
Also, on the specials, he actively said, "Okay, we've teased some here, but we have more than this prepared if necessary." He basically said, "DC are waiting to see the reaction and the sales for the first few issues, seeing how much people actually want. Depending on how well it does, they have more stories planned. Obviously, if it doesn't do that well, or situations don't allow them, they just won't do them all."
They've probably got my money, so I mean, they can keep putting them out. I do think that I don't know if we're going to get like a proper Rebirth-esque sort of line-wide thing come January or February, but I do feel like, like there's a lot of things coming to an end over the next few months. Williamson's Flash run. I wonder if like, are we going to even start a proper new run? Is it going to be just a bunch of like sort of like filling arcs until we get to that point? It might be, may not be. I don't know.
Could be.
It'll just fill it. It'll do what Justice League's been doing, where it did a bunch of fill-ins until it's relevant to Death Metal. We'll do a 5-issue tie-in out to that.
Yeah, and then Justice League, because notably that 5-issue arc will take it not quite to the end of Death Metal, but it'll get within spitting distance.
That'll take to the end of November, so there'll be two issues of Metal left.
I feel like Justice League, Flash, those other Prime books, not that they're going to necessarily renumber, because I don't want a Flash to renumber, but I feel like there's maybe arguments that they're going to, whatever the new directions are for those, are going to spin out of the end of Death Metal. Even if it's just as simple as Death Metal does sort of fix some timeline stuff, so now there's just a new status quo for it to explore. I can see that being the case. But who knows? I don't know. Sometimes we try and guess these things, and then they just...
Kind of excited for Metal now, though.
Oh, I already was. It was I like the first one a lot.
Me too. But I mean, I'm more excited now that it's next week.
I'm not excited that Batman Who Laughs again, because I'm like over that character.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, I'm okay.
This has to be the nail in the coffin for Batman Who Lasts for a while.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
You would think.
Put your toys back in the box, Snyder.
I still wonder if he's ever going to pay off the other clans that he introduced in Metal.
Maybe this is where it comes in.
I think that'd be real cool.
Yeah, maybe we'll get that during this. That's the reason. So did this get an issue 7 added as well?
It did, yeah. We spoke about that last month, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the first one get a 7 added as well? Can't remember.
I don't know, because it had the skip month and then the was it the Forge one shot? Was that the one in the middle?
Yeah, the casting, the Forge, the
they were the start.
Morrison one.
Yeah, the one in the middle was
what was the one in the middle?
It was Hawkman Lost or something like that. Was the
Hawkman Lost. You had Batman Found.
Yeah, it was those two.
And then you had that Grant Morrison one with Detective Chimp, Wild Hunt.
Oh yeah. I don't know how many issues it actually ended up, but in terms of the things that felt actually important, more than 6 for sure.
Yeah. The Grant Morrison one I think was the least important of the bunch. I just kind of feel like, Grant Morrison's willing to do a thing. Yeah. We'll let him do it.
So fun.
Forge and casting, and then the Hawkman one were definitely all borderline just main numbered issues.
Well, for Forge and casting were always the prelude to it, so that was never like a question. I think the Batman Found and or Hawkman Lost, those were kind of more one shots in the middle that actually are quite important to the overall thing.
And I suspect the Trinity Crisis is very much akin to those issues. This time.
Probably. That makes sense. So what else you got?
A couple more things. We've got Tynion was talking about King's Batman Catwoman book. Basically just saying, it's kind of just outside continuity as far as he's aware now. It's kind of just shifted. It's not going to affect his stuff in any way. Which
we expected, to be honest. Given that we were doing daughter stuff and Catwoman getting pregnant and whatnot, I felt like that was just the natural conclusion to it.
Yep. We've got some sad news. Sejic is no longer going to be working for DC. He's not going to be doing any work for hire at all. He's just doing his own webcomics, Sunstone, that sort of stuff.
When you said we've got some sad news, I legitimately thought you were going to go into the story about someone dying this week.
No. Well, that's obviously much sadder. We'll get to that.
Yeah, it was just the way you phrased it. We've got some sad news. I'm like,
I thought that too, and then he said, and I was like, oh yeah, that's sad too.
Yeah.
This week sucks.
It's not equally sad as the person dying, but sure.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to be getting a Harleen sequel now, unless he's already completed it. I don't think so. It's a shame. He did actually say back in February that that he did have plans to do a second Harleen story. So unless he'd already finished that, isn't
unless
gonna
he's just taking time to work on his creator own stuff. Who knows what that is? If it's just Sunstone or
no, I think he's just doing that entirely. He spoke about it a bit more on Twitter. He said this is for his health. Is had like wrist injuries and stuff, and the deadlines of work for hire stuff. It's actually getting to him too much.
Well, I mean, the two things is that one, that maybe he's still going to fulfill whatever he'd promised. So even if he's technically shifting over, maybe he'll still do the sequel. Two, I can still see him coming back at some point after like an extended time away.
It's possible. Yeah. The only reason I will discount that first point is whether or not he's finished it already, because his exact quote was, "Tomorrow I complete my last pages in the standard comics industry and then move into the glorious world of webcomics." Well,
maybe he has been working on it a lot. I mean, hell, maybe he had time because everything.
It's possible, but I don't know if he's referring to pages for an interior of these things, or maybe he just means some covers. It's hard to say.
Right. I think, wasn't he an illustrator that kind of fell into comics because of his webcomic?
Yeah.
So this.
I wouldn't. I would not have assumed that covers would include in this. I feel like he would still do covers occasionally, but I don't know.
I mean,
he might.
That seems like the sort of thing that, given what he's saying, like I feel like covers aren't as stressful. But I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe that's also a harsh deadline that he doesn't want to have. But
I mean, I don't know. The way that if it is like his wrists and stuff, and he just wants to give him a break, then I could see him just working on his stuff when he wants, because even if you have a cover, there are deadlines and whatnot.
Yeah.
Unless they had a bunch of stuff, just, like pinups that you could use as covers.
In that case, I'll just hope that DC at some point, offer him enough money and give him enough like time to just take his time on whatever he wants to do, whether that's Harleen 2 or whatever, but hopefully more comes of it, because we do actually kind of love his stuff. Because that was the thing, the writing in Harleen was like, oh wait, he's also good at this too.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. What else you got?
I've got two actually Marvel stories that are potentially relevant.
Marvelous.
Well, very. One is actually, they're kind of abandoning the plans for Free Comic Book Day. So obviously it was supposed to be rescheduled officially later in the year. Marvel have kind of gone, screw it, we're releasing our issues in July. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone follows suit now and just kind of starts putting stuff out there. They're still putting them out for free.
It's interesting because, well, I mean, I assume they're teasing things they're going to be doing soon, so they have to actually have them out before all the books start coming out. So, and given that DC's thing that they were going to tease isn't happening anymore, they don't have to worry about it. So, yeah, it could just mean Free Comic Book Day is just kind of just not a thing this year.
It might well. Yeah.
At least from the big two. I mean, maybe, Image and all that will still put some stuff out, but...
Yeah. And just one other one I want to talk about that is funny and petty. And I don't know if you've seen this. So Marvel have announced a new slate of variant covers that'll be coming to stores.
Oh, I think I know what this is. You better go on.
There's 13 of them, and it's basically blank covers. It'll have the title on, and the issue number and all that. The standard logo stuff, and then all it'll say is new comic book day is Wednesday.
I think the actual quote is new comics every Wednesday, I think.
Is it every Wednesday? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, don't worry, it's a clear aim and targeted hit.
Oh,
Matt, your mic's going. It's a clear targeted hit at DC, but it wasn't worded as on the nose as new comic book day is Wednesday.
Yeah, it feels very petty. And why? Who's buying this? Who cares enough to buy it?
I don't understand why they're wasting time to do something like this.
Because they're petty as shit.
I know, but it does nobody any good. You always look who benefits, and I just outside of it being petty, I don't.
Who's going to go into the store and see, what variant covers of Marvel got this week for my books? Because I get that. I sometimes I'll have a look at what variants are. I've got it now. It just says on sale Wednesday. Is what it says. Is the text on the variant covers? Which,
again, how is this a slam? It's not like DC's not sending new comics out.
Yeah, it's like on sale Wednesday, and he's like, yeah, ours were on sale yesterday. What's your point? I would get this if DC were pushing later. Like if DC pushed the Thursday and Marvel on sale Wednesday, they'd be like, hey, come and get ours before DC.
I don't get this. It's stupid.
Ours are a day later, aren't we? Great.
Yeah, this makes no sense to me. Who's going into the store to pick up their issue 26 of Venom and going, oh, you know what? I'm gonna grab that variant cover that says on sale Wednesday because screw you, DC. Like what?
This is, I don't know. I do think there is people with that mentality who will do something this silly to, own quote unquote the opposition. But obviously it doesn't accomplish anything. So I mean,
I don't. Yeah.
Sadly, I do think there's an immature market for this, but
I mean,
that's what it is.
Is there enough to make it worth it? I don't know. But I have one last thing to talk about. That is an update from the big news from last week, which was the DC and Diamond relationship. And basically, they kind of had some conversations. They're extending their agreement a little bit. So for US stores, they can order graphic novels and collections for final order up till slightly later, and reorders could go all the way through to December, I think, if it's anything that they've already had an order for. But I think more notably for Diamond UK, which was obviously a big thing that we spoke about last time because there was no clear plan in place whatsoever. Diamond UK will continue shipping DC Comics right up until the end of 2020, which I'm assuming is going to be enough time for, I think, UCS are the ones looking at getting something in place.
Oh, that's good. I mean, even if we didn't know exactly what it was, the fact that they're saying we'll do it to the end of 2020 implies to me, even just on that alone, that means DC know that they have to have some sort of system in place and they need time to do it. So
yeah, they've got about 6 months or so to get something up and running for the UK and a lot of the European audience, which again is a reasonable amount of sales.
I mean, to me that just says no, we actually do want to keep selling single issues there, and it's going to take a bit more time, but we're doing something. We're not just abandoning it. So there you go.
Yeah.
So no, that's good news. As best as we can get, I suppose.
Happy for you guys.
Yes,
yeah, my shop actually put a big post out just before this news broke. I don't think they'd gotten this information yet, but they were like saying that they really like Diamond UK. They've never had any problems. Their customer service has been good to them. They've always got their deliveries on time and not missing stuff. So apparently Diamond UK are better than standard Diamond by the sounds of it.
Yeah, so I was going to say that's a shot at US Diamond.
Yeah, I think they were very intentionally making that shot, and they were saying they're kind of upset to see this part ways, but their plan is that they will still ship. They will still stock all DC Comics as much as they can. They will do their best to keep the prices the same as everything else. Subject to future conditions.
I mean, given this news, it means that that's probably going to be a lot easier than they maybe thought it was going to be. So
yeah. They did say though that once, obviously, this was again under the impression of this was happening a lot sooner than this, that they will be stocking basically very little for the shelves, and it will be if you want DC Comics, you're gonna have to order them.
Yeah, I mean, again, this probably changes a little bit because of this news, and I mean, maybe the price will have to go up a little bit after whatever the new system is, but it probably won't be double the price that the fear mongering was.
Their solution is if it's only going up a little bit, they're kind of willing to eat those costs just to have the parity across the line with the books. So they're not charging different prices for DC books than they are for Marvel, and they still want to sell them. So maybe it's worth eating a little bit extra profit.
Just raise the prices on the Marvel books to match. There you go, done.
I'm okay with that. I don't buy anything.
Marvel tax. Just call it Marvel tax. It's fine. All right. So actually, I want to mention a bit of gaming news, just because it's slightly related to DC. In that Warner Brothers wants to sell off its entire Warner Brothers interactive gaming division and all of its studios, including Rocksteady, who made all the Batman Arkham games. And I think it's worth mentioning, just because if you do care about DC comic video games, there's a good chance that this kind of murkies the waters a little bit now, because if someone else buys all those studios, they don't own the license of any DC properties, or for that matter, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, all these other things that these studios typically make games out of. So Warner Bros. Could license them out, but Warner Bros. Could also just license them out to somewhere else. So
it's possible that they'll be allowed to continue working on the games that they already are. The license will essentially continue for that game.
Which would probably include, I mean, Rocksteady is a bit of a mystery, but Warner Bros. Montreal are working on a DC game. We know that. Probably a Batman game, because we're hearing.
I'm shocked it hasn't been announced already. I mean,
but I wonder if the reason why they've not announced it is because they knew they were going to be selling, and there's a lot of like red tape right now about.
Possible, and that also goes for the Harry Potter game that has been leaked for a while now. That's
2 years. That's 2 years ago that was leaked.
Yeah. Again, it leaked early enough that we weren't expecting an announcement imminently, but with all the new consoles coming and all the games being announced now, we were kind of expecting it around this time. But maybe again, this news has delayed that.
Yeah. So no, it's potentially pretty big, and they could end up at a really bad home like EA or something like that, with like not only microtransactions but also the risk of these studios closing in a couple of years. So it felt worth mentioning, and it kind of affects, because now in the future, if Warner Bros. Do want to make a video game based on a DC character, they don't just have an in-house studio to do it, and now it becomes, it's essentially what Disney are having to do with Marvel, where okay, Square Enix can make an Avengers game, Sony can make a Spider-Man game, so on. It becomes this thing that you might get good results, but it's also a lot more varied and a lot more across the board in terms of quality and all that kind of thing. So worth mentioning. Now we should talk about the big creator who passed away this week a little bit. I mean, it's sadly there's a story in the Joker special.
Yeah, I had just read it yesterday morning.
Yeah,
and then got the news.
I hadn't read it.
Sucked.
Yeah, I hadn't read it yet, so I got to the Denny O'Neil story in the book and went, oh shit! Like, it actually kind of hit me today when I got to that name. I was like, oh, he actually wrote something for this issue.
Yeah.
So he passed away this week. So obviously big loss. He did a lot of notable Batman work specifically.
So
other things.
Doing some research and looking up, because I had always known he had created Ra's al Ghul and Talia because he wanted to give Bruce a Bat villain, or a Bat villain. Of course, he's a Bat villain, but a Bond villain for Batman. And that's where they came from. And then he had done the Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Hard Traveling Heroes. Right, he made Speedy a junkie and brought social issues into comics.
Yeah, like there's the whole comics have always been political, and they have, but he brought it to the forefront in a more nuanced way than just Nazis are bad, which was what a lot of it was before.
Yeah.
Right, and so
which they still are, for the record, they're still bad.
Yes, it's always.
So we made that very clear right now.
I would like to say that it doesn't need to be said, but apparently it bloody does.
Apparently it does, and just again, all my heroes punch Nazis. That's it. From Superman, Cap, Indy. That's just it. The Rocketeer.
Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby, of course. I love that story. But Denny O'Neil. And so I started doing a little bit more digging because, of course, I had heard about his, question, which I've never read, and the aspects he brought to that. And basically everything that I do like about Batman, which is, for self-parody, a smaller list, is directly responsible to Denny O'Neil, because he wanted to get him away from the Batman 66 colorful, campy version, and kind of return him to his roots as a head-busting vigilante that, worked in the shadows. And that's where the 70s took it. Him and Neil Adams started doing stuff on Batman.
Yeah.
And then he ended up becoming an editor later in the 70s and ended up working a lot with Frank Miller.
Well, yeah, I mean, we spoke about this briefly in the quarantine episodes when I was going through the Daredevil stuff, how he was the editor on that stuff. That he was the one who brought Frank Miller, not into comics, he was already an artist, but he was the one who brought him into writing. And formed that relationship that, obviously led to, Dark Knight Returns and Year One.
Right.
Yeah, which is funny because you talk about sort of taking Batman away from that, the 60s stuff. And I think when most people think in terms of the comic books, like, what sort of changed Batman, is that Frank Miller stuff specifically. But this person who was kind of trying to get there more gradually was actually instrumental in those Frank Miller stories as well. So he is kind of this creative driving force behind what we think of as modern Batman.
Year One doesn't exist without Denny O'Neil.
Oh, not at all. No.
Not at all.
I can't even count the amount of comments I've read from him that, be it as a writer or just as an editor. Mm-hmm. There are so many things that he's edited that you maybe don't even notice.
Right. So, we've gone on and on about our favorite Bat villains, and I've really liked Two-Face. And that was something I found out last night as I'm reading about his contributions. up until 1970, when he put Two-Face in a Batman comic, Two-Face had showed up like a grand total of 4 times. And so it was Denny O'Neil that turned him into this from Jekyll and Hyde kind of figure to that tragic, wanted to do good, ended up becoming scarred from it, and all that trauma forming Harvey Two-Face. And that's my favorite version.
Yeah, it's what we think
right?
of as
It's what
Two-Face.
Two-Face is.
Right.
He's basically to Two-Face what George Romero was to zombies, where zombies technically existed before Night of the Living Dead, but what we think of as a zombie, George Romero created in 1968.
Right.
Honestly, he's probably the single most influential creator on Batman, barring the actual creators. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, they say since Bill Finger and Bob Kane that it's Denny O'Neil that has shaped Batman, and also Joker. Like Joker was the Cesar Romero version. He wasn't this clown prince of crime that was dangerous until Joker's 5-Way Revenge in the 70s. That's another thing I didn't realize is when Joker became this, maniacal villain.
I think about 90% of what we consider to be Batman in the modern sense can be traced back to Denny O'Neil's stuff.
Right.
Whether that's his writing or his editing work.
Yeah, and then like Daredevil, like Connor brought up, him editing that book and all the street level heroes that kind of gave way to Bendis, right? And him doing that with the street level heroes through Daredevil, and Jessica Jones, I think owes a lot to Denny O'Neil and all this. And you don't realize the man's imprint until
you go and look at this tangled web of everything he touched.
Right. Yeah. And I was always familiar with the Superman versus Muhammad Ali, Neil Adams. I didn't realize Denny O'Neil wrote that.
Yeah.
So
it was similar when Len Wein died, because obviously he's often credited as the creator of Swamp Thing, but all of a sudden you realized he was editing a lot. It wasn't just the stuff he wrote. He was editing tons of DC books over a large period of time. So yeah, his fingerprints were over tons of great stuff.
It's very easy to forget just how influential editors are in the direction of what things are going. Sure, they're not the ones writing the story.
So,
that the writer and artist get the credit for being those storytellers and the ideas, but the editors are the ones choosing the direction that the characters go in, and that's why we often blame editorial for things going wrong.
I guess the comparison to a TV show would be the showrunner. Like the editor, in a lot of ways, is the showrunner of essentially a family of comics, as opposed to one comic.
Yeah. Well, and he shepherded the Batman comics throughout the 70s.
I think the closest comparison right now I can think of would be kind of like he's like Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Sure.
What he is to the Marvel movies, kind of overlooking this shared vision, and
putting
this
the right people,
cohesive story. That's kind of what an editor's role is in a group editor, specifically in comics.
Yeah. So I had listened to the Star Wars podcast, and it's not about Star Wars, Pete, so you can calm down. That they had the editors from it was Heather Antos and I want to say Charles. I can't remember his name. But they were on talking because they'd made friends with the host of this show, and they were talking about what an editor actually means for those that don't know. And because all 3 of the hosts came from music, they're like, no, it's basically the producer of the album. That's kind of what an editor is. They share a lot of the same goals, where if they do their job right, you don't notice the editors, right? Like you would notice the producer on the album. So once I heard that, then you look at Denny O'Neil, and he's like, correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys know Beatles better than I. He's kind of like the Brian Epstein, right?
What do you mean, you guys? Connor knows Beatles better than you. I don't.
I don't know.
No, I get
you're a music guy more than I am.
He was the 5th Beatle in the sense that he's so influential and is overlooked because he drove.
I don't know who that was.
He drove a lot of sound and the ideas,
right?
If not the actual composition, but the raw sound, the production, the Beatles is a great example with the use of stereo sound. They kind of
Counterpoint. Wasn't Counterpoint him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I
can't even name the 4th Beatle. Never mind the 5th.
Oh my god! Yeah. How do I know this? And I don't even really like the Beatles. Like I'm one of those weird people that like their pop stuff more than their experimental stuff.
I could do you John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and I remember Ringo Starr because his name's Ringo Starr.
Right. George Harrison.
To be fair, he's always the one that people forget out of the 4.
That's why I remember him.
Ringo's such a, like Pete Best. right?
Yeah.
The
Plus,
original
his name's so close to
Sue
Dingo
Sutcliffe.
that I just think of maybe a Ringo ate your baby, and it cracks me up.
I can't believe I know more about the Beatles than Pete.
I don't know why you should be surprised. I don't really know old music
Because
that well.
I associate you as a music person, considering how much you focus in on scores and whatnot. So
I'm really fussy though. Like I don't listen to a lot of
and-
popular music. I'm kind of
yeah.
all over the place with that.
I didn't even realize I liked Elton John until I got together with my wife, and I was like, oh, that's an Elton song? And that one is too? Oh man, I think I really like Elton John beyond The Lion King. Right? So that opened a lot of doors. So I'm not. That's why I wanted to
tangentially
defer to you guys.
Also 5,000 Candles in the Wind, technically.
Yes. Which, because it needs to be, what does he say? 5,000 times better than a candle in the wind.
Yes, there's 5,000 times more sadder than what Candle in the Wind was for. I think this was the gist of the idea.
So, but anyways, we're I guess from Denny O'Neil, and I didn't. Out of all the commentator deaths, I didn't realize it was going to hit me so hard. Then when I started looking at what he had worked on, like I had known he had shaped Batman for my taste. Like that's the Batman I like the most. There's not a lot of because Batman with Denny O'Neil. He was this kind of globe-trotting adventurer that would come home to Gotham and face those stuff. But and I like that. And you can feel a little bit of that in Grant Morrison's Batman, and to where Incorporated kind of went. But which is one of my favorite runs. So, but yeah, man, completely bummed me out. And then you see, especially right now, with all the stuff politically going on, that image that's getting shared from his Hard Traveling Heroes of the black guy asking Green Lantern what's he ever done for the black skinned people on Earth. He goes and helps the purple skinned aliens and the yellow skinned aliens and orange, but what's he done? And it hit hard. Kept seeing that get shared all over the place. So, and it's from the 70s. Like, it's wild.
Let's talk about comics though, shall we? Shall we talk about the art of comic booking and Joker 80th Anniversary Special #1, because DC love these specials now because they make lots of money off of them. And we are going to work through this book. We're going to talk about the various stories. I think the first thing I would say about this is that I do think overall it's better than the Catwoman one.
Yeah, it's much more in line with what I thought Catwoman was going to be, more of a celebration of the character.
Yeah,
this is definitely a celebration of Joker.
There's definitely more stories as well that I think stick out as being solid at the very least, if not just outright, good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'll let you go through them because I only made it to the Tom Taylor before I was like, I'm over it. About Joker. I already am not a big fan of Joker, so I was already playing with a thin edge here. But yeah, I'll let you go through them.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of old covers, pinups that are sort of early on. The first story is the Scott Snyder and Jock story, which is about a Joker victim. And I think this is actually maybe one of the reasons why it ended up being better than the Catwoman one, is that I always say that if you're going to do a Joker story, it should be about the effect that Joker has on people rather than Joker being the protagonist. And I think a lot of these stories go into that idea. And I think because of that, they're more inventive than the Catwoman stories were for the most part. But it's this victim who's in therapy, and he's got this deformed smile because the Joker toxin plus whatever else has done this to him, and he can't sleep. He's having these nightmares. He's talking about this leather flower that he saw as a kid that he was scared of.
His grandparents, who were tanners, they decided this would be a good gift for our grandson. So they set it like a flower made out of animal skins, each petal from a different animal. And I'm like, oh man, this guy was kind of,
sounds messed
from the start.
Sounds messed up. Yeah, it really does. The psychiatrist has tried to explain to him, because he specializes in trying to help victims of the Joker, survivors of Joker attacks and things like that. And he talks about all the various people that he's helped. He tries to convince them, look, Joker's greatest trait is that he convinces you that he's more than just a man, that he's more than just a psychopath, that he's something else. And what I think is really notable about that is it sounds like that's kind of what we talk about Batman a lot of the time, that he's more than just a man, he becomes something else, someone else, something else.
Almost like it's escalation.
But he's like, no, he doesn't have that power. The victim takes off because the mask that he's been told to wear is like to eventually help his face. It's like a brace that will eventually fix his smile.
It almost looks like the Hannibal Lecter mask.
Yeah,
but way more like gnarly than that. But yeah.
And the ending, of course, is the psychiatrist goes to his bed that night, and he wakes up, and the leather flower's sitting next to him, and he's like, "Wait, who did someone bug my office? How could they possibly know about this story?" And the flower sprays acid on his face melts off, and the Joker comes out from under the bed. And
such a creepy visual.
It's a very creepy visual. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of because there was a thing back in Snyder's run about Joker hiding under it was Gordon's bed at one point.
Gordon's bed to listen to him sleep.
I thought that was an interesting callback.
And that's the thing about Scott Snyder. If you follow him on Twitter or if you've ever met him, he's the most like soft-spoken, good-natured, soft-tempered guy. And then you read some of the most like dark and twisted stuff that comes out of him, and you're like, I'm glad you're a writer, sir, because if not, I'm afraid of what would happen.
Do you know,
like you have an outlet.
I like this story, and I thought the ending is a little bit on the nose, but I think I did like what he was going for here, where the idea that this doctor's trying to convince that the Joker is just a man, he is just this, he's not some boogeyman, to put it in those terms. And at the end, the Joker's like, no, he is. At least he can get to anyone, right, including him. So I kind of I like that idea. So anyway, basically, it's a horror story, and when Scott Snyder's a horror story, it tends to be quite good. This is kind of his speciality in a lot of ways. Plus the visual of the guy's face melting off. Car, did you read this?
No, I'm guessing no, because he's so quiet.
No, it's like I said, budgets are tight. I have no interest in. Oh, I'll look another 100-page special every week, and I'm just. I'm not feeling.
I'm just clarifying, just so I know that you're going to be sitting there for the next half hour or whatever. You know.
I know, but I mean, what can I say?
All right, so Joker could drink. Cora could drink some booze. I mean, Joker probably drinks some booze as well. I mean, I don't know if Joker needs alcohol. I feel like he's just naturally drunk.
Well, I don't think that. I think that he's one of those people that's a teetotaler. Or he could if he wanted to. He doesn't have anything against it, but he's just like, nah, I don't need it. Imagine a drunk Joker. No, thank you.
He's probably safer. He's probably too like sleepy to do it.
I don't know, man. I've met plenty of rage-filled drinkers. Happy drunk versus the rage drunk. No, thank you.
That's what I'm saying though. Joker already has like all this erratic rage in him that he may actually go more docile when he's.
I don't know. That's how I know we ran in different groups. So all the people I knew that were jerks, alcohol only made them bigger jerks. It was never like, oh hey, you're a lot cooler when you drink. It's never been that with me.
Okay.
It does mellow some people out.
Some people, but not the guys I knew. Let's just put it that way.
Because some people are, mellow drunks, angry drunks. Some people just get sleepy. Some people,
I tend to get sleepy if I only have like one or two drinks, and then once you have another,
which is why you always have a dozen.
No. Look, this is only two for now.
For now.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. What's the next one?
That's the thing about numbers; they just keep going up. So, next story. A couple of more classic covers. The next one is the Tynion story with Yannin on the art, and this actually, it's this dean in the college who's giving this girl into trouble because they wanted to do like a dress as your hero day at the campus because one of the girls, specifically this girl's roommate, their sister or something like that was a victim in a Joker attack. So again, we're doing the impact of Joker on normal people's lives, which I thought was interesting, and I like that. And it does this neat thing where over the course of the story, she's basically this rebel who tries to, fight against the establishment, talks about him just being the man, and then breathes smoke in his face, which then makes him start laughing, and she talks about how she got the recipe for Joker gas off the internet, which is very realistic and terrifying in a comic book context.
It made me think too that which is something I haven't thought about before. There are definitely people obsessed with the bat villains or super villains or whatever. Just like there's people obsessed with serial killers. Sure, there's the people with passing interest, like my wife, who will watch any serial killer documentary because that stuff fascinates her. But then there's the others that write to the serial killers in prison and whatnot, and that's where this girl ends up becoming. Because I don't want to give away.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, yeah,
happens.
the reveal here is that she starts putting on makeup, and it becomes very clear very quickly this is Punchline, and this is, you know, maybe not the full origin of Punchline, but this is the moment she really becomes Punchline, and she's going to help murder people. She wants to actually, she's that extreme. She puts on the costume, and she basically says society's all one big joke, and I'm the Punchline, right? That's kind of her thing. And then Joker comes out of the closet at the end. He goes, "You know what? You've convinced me. You're ready for the heavy stuff." Because she says, "I'm ready to get serious." And he's like, "No, my dear Punchline. What comes next is going to be funny." And it's basically, because this is the thing when we get to Batman later, is that Punchline is not someone who's cracking a lot of jokes like Harley Quinn does.
No.
It kind of points out the differences between them. And it's setting up that she's got this very serious sense of humor in comparison.
Yeah, and I do like that this is not just Harley 2.
Yeah.
She's her own type, and that, again, when she showed up in Hell Arisen, I started thinking, she seems more like a Mercy Graves type than a Harley. And people are like, "Oh, well, what about the love interest thing?" I'm like, not just that. Like, sure, she might be a Joker girlfriend or whatever. But more or less, I do feel like she's more of an acolyte than Harley, who Harley was someone that was corrupted by Joker.
The word I would use, okay, well, that's a big key difference, of course, is that Harley was, basically seduced by the Joker and, like, basically driven mad. I think the key difference, though, for me is that I would just use the word devout. Punchline is devout and is a zealot and believes in the chaos that the Joker's going to bring to the society, you know?
Right, she sought him out. Harley wasn't seeking out Joker, you know? It just happened where it seems like went out of her way. And I think that's super important going forward. Because especially we saw on one of the covers, it looks like we're going to get a Harley versus Punchline in, was it 98?
Yeah, it makes sense. I enjoyed this one too, and the art's really good, of course. Yannen's really solid.
Yannon.
I think
his Joker is so good because he's so angular, and it sticks out because I always feel like Yannen's is very soft. That's why I think it looks so nice to look at. Like everything has kind of a curve to it. Not his Joker. His Joker is pointy and it really sticks out.
I would describe him as just a more menacing Neil Patrick Harris and a Joker makeup.
Sure.
He's got that scrawny, bony kind of quality to him, which is cool. So I mean, at this point, I was 2 for 2, which was the complete opposite of Catwoman, where the first two were the two of the roughest ones. So this was a nice change, at least to like set me up that some of these are going to be good, and that's a nice place to be. The third one was a bit weird though. So it's this story where Batman's been killed by the Joker, and Lois is reporting from the Batcave, and she talks to Alfred, and then at the memorial, we get to hear Gordon. Well, Gordon's on the news, and then we get to hear from like Superman and some of the others at the memorial, and. So when Gordon basically said his line from Dark Knight, where he says, he's the hero that Gotham City always needed but never deserved, I was like, okay, that's a nice touch. And then the very next page, Harvey Dent's giving a speech, and he basically does the ending speech from Dark Knight. And then when Joker shows up in the crowd, he's got "Why So Serious" written on him. I'm like, you know what? I appreciated the first one, the first nod to Dark Knight. I think once you've done 3 of these, though, I'm kind of like, okay, you're maybe doing a bit too much here.
And here's the thing, they try to make it look like you're only seeing half of Two-Face, but on the first panel that you see him, because it's a judge, he has his full. So you're like either commit or don't. I felt like I don't know if that's in the writing or if that was Dan Moore's art, because on the other 2 follow-ups, it's you only see half of his face.
Yeah, I think it's more of a thematic thing. Either this Harvey never became Two-Face, or he's been cured. I guess I don't know what's going on there, but. Mr. Freeze talking about how Bruce Wayne funded his research that saved his wife's life, and I like elements of this story, and I was kind of frustrated at first because I thought, well, I'm always a fan of Joker not wanting to kill Batman, and that's part of the fun. But to be fair, he does kind of once he's in the crowd, his narration's very much all these people are cheering and celebrating, the honor of Batman, and I'm like, no, I'm the only one who's really sad. I'm the one who's really affected by this. Right. What do I do now? But I guess what I don't appreciate is that this entire thing just builds up to a joke. Really dumb. Like that. So basically, Joker's walking away from the memorial. He doesn't because he's got a bomb wrapped around his chest that he doesn't use. He just walks away. He says, "Well, I'm the most evil clown prince there is, and now I don't have my audience. My audience, the only audience that appreciated what I did was Batman. So what do I do now? What does the most evil bastard on the planet do now? And then the final page of the story, he's working at the DMV.
Like, this is a Ron Swanson joke.
This is such a this is such a. It doesn't fit. I mean, it's not it's the GMV because it's Gotham version,
right,
but
motor
whatever.
Vehicles. That still doesn't make sense.
I don't know. They all felt like it was a big dumb joke, and yeah, this one's actually co-written by Greg Miller. Is this Greg Miller from Kinda Funny?
Yes, it is.
Is that Greg Miller? That is.
Which I might get raked over the coals for this. I don't understand his appeal. A lot people have tried to tell me, "Oh, he loves Superman. You'll like him. You're lying." And stuff that I've seen. He might be a nice guy, but I don't know.
Greg Miller's alright.
I mean, he's not. I don't know. Video game personalities aren't my cup of tea. Well, I know he started with that type of stuff.
I mean, it's mostly video game stuff that he does, so you're not obviously a big video game person, but
no, but
Greg Miller's alright in terms of like, he's a nice enough person. He's. I'm
more disappointed. This is Gary Whitta, who's a name to Star Wars, and so yeah, it was a very uneven story.
Yeah, Dan Mora's art's solid. Don't get me wrong. I think the art's perfectly.
Yeah, I like Dan Mora.
Good. So, I felt this all built up to this punchline that just wasn't. I don't know. It felt a bit like okay, it was all a joke. It was all just building up to this joke. Fair enough. Next story is the Denny O'Neil one. It's called Introducing the Dove Corps. Art by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. This is the Joker. Basically, he joins this team of like this pacifist
non-lethal
Marines who go into like rescue situations, and he's wearing his his Hawaiian shirt and his hat. Yeah, he's Killing Joke outfit basically. And there's a moment where he gets the camera off one of the guys, like, oh, I'm going to take lots of great photos with this, and I was like, this is a bit, I don't know, too like, I'll get it because this is the camera he's going to use in the Killing Joke. I don't know, that was a bit weird. The rest of the story is that he kind of agrees to go non-lethal, and he makes this weird gun that fires. What is it?
They're itchy. It's an itching powder. It's his own concoction.
And so they all use this itching powder gun, and it's a successful mission. They save the hostages, and then he turns around at the end and says, well, that was kind of fun, and you've made me a member of the Corps because I've proven myself to you. But you know what? And then he just lots of gunshots, and the last page is him having killed the entire team, going, killing's just so much fun, though. So
yeah. And the crux that made him want to do this is he goes, well, what's unexpected? Because whatever's unexpected is always funny. Oh, well, I'll go work with this new Corps for the UN that doesn't kill people, because Joker not killing people is hilarious. And then at the end, it's basically like, well, no, he's always, he's almost a victim of his impulses. He's never not gonna be Joker.
It's kind of a weird story because, like, do these people know who Joker is? And if they do, like,
why'd they let him go?
Yeah,
I don't know. It definitely felt of a time where I had said about the Catwoman one, where this felt like the Denny O'Neil Joker from the 70s.
Yeah, it feels like of an era. It feels like a kids' TV show where the villains can just get into schemes every week because no one knows who they are. That feels like that kind of era of villain. So I don't necessarily I don't dislike it. It's actually kind of a fun enough read. But it is just kind of weird in the context of like modern storytelling. Not even tropes, just modern storytelling kind of standards, I guess, in terms of how we treat characters. But I mean, it's a throwback, and it wasn't a bad read. So there you go. Unfortunately, Connor Mister's telling about the story co-written by Greg Miller that ends in a joke where Joker ends up working at the DMV.
That's the Gary Whitta one too.
Oh, okay. Is that the one with Greg Miller?
Yeah. I wanted to point that out since you came back because it was worth hearing about. Cedric pinup, of course, in there.
Looks nice.
Yeah. Very,
very Harleen-esque.
Oh yeah, very. And then there's a story here with Batman kind of getting to the Joker with some really iffy art on most pages. Although there was a couple of pages where I thought the art kind of worked from certain angles, bizarrely.
Very nightmare-esque.
Yeah, there's a top-down, because this is the thing, I really like the colour palette. On this story, but there's a page that looking top-down where Batman's got Joker by the neck, and there's like a lot of the blonde like henchmen are grabbing him. I thought that was actually a really good panel, but there's a lot of the other panels or pages where the face is just a bit too rigid, there's too much going on. Basically this is called The War Within. It's this Peter J. Tomasi story with Simone Bianchi on the art, and it's essentially the twist is that this is actually Joker as Batman trying to like think like Batman would, and kind of like try to. So at the end we see that he's actually in the bat suit and he's like killed all of his henchmen because he's trying to imagine himself as Batman to sort of predict him, and you know, that's just kind of one of these so-so ones where I kind of get the idea. I don't know if the execution's all there though.
It didn't work for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
When I got to it,
Yeah.
it was kind of a pain to read too, just with the way that sometimes it rhymed, sometimes it didn't. Like it didn't have a flow. Like I felt like if you're gonna start rhyming, you need to stay to it. I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of a mess.
That's fair. They're definitely not one of the stronger ones for me either.
Nope.
But then of course they follow up that with the Riley Rosmo.
Which I did not mind the story. I just wish I liked the art more. Like, because again, I feel like Rosmo works in places. Because I didn't mind his Batman and Shadow book that he did with, what was that, Orlando and Snyder?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was. Do you know what? It's not as egregious series art because it's not got anyone with big hair with the big foreheads.
Right.
It's kind of shying away from that. It's still very Riley Rosmo though, so it's still not great.
No, but and also I don't feel like Joker fits the Riley Rosmo mold. I feel like that's why Martian Manhunter worked, because it could be, this weird kind of thing. But in this story, I like that it's Joker's nightmare where his insanity plea doesn't work. Instead of getting sent to Arkham, he gets sent to Blackgate. And
well, I mean,
he gets executed.
Yeah, what a shock that the story is actually quite good. I mean, it's Paul Dini, right? So
yeah,
I like that it's a good Joker story in the sense that Joker's like basically complaining that none of the big villains are here to see him die. I did like how deliciously evil he was. Like the people like behind the glass at the electric chair.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, "Oh, I probably killed your children or friends or loved ones, and I don't remember their names." He's just being awful.
And because it's Dini, I could easily hear it in Mark Hamill's Joker at the same time. Him saying just the nastiest stuff. And then like when they go to put him in the electric chair, he talks about how you're supposed to put a sponge on top of him. He goes, "Oh, we're out of water." And Joker's like, "I thought you might be." Just like, because he knows for all the bad things he's done, it's coming to him. And this is why it's his nightmare. And then his death finally makes Batman laugh.
Yeah.
So that's what his nightmare is that he, his final thing is.
Can I just say, I did like the moment where he's given his last meal and he asks for a pie, and he immediately throws it in the guard's face and says, "I've been waiting my whole life for that gag."
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
But I kind of like, because obviously Dini we associate a lot with Harley and stuff because of, his background. And the ending is Harley telling that, back when she was with the Joker, he used to have these nightmares. And Ivy says, "Oh, is that what you saw him in then? Is that why you were with him for so long? Because you saw this like sort of more innocent, like kind of side to him. This side was more vulnerable." Right. And she says, "No, that's why I finally left him. I was never in it. I was never in the dreams."
Right.
And it makes that fair point that he's obsessed with Batman. He was never obsessed with Harley. Harley's just there to him.
And that's always been Dini's take with Harley and Joker, and that it was her, almost Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, constantly trying to get Mr. J's affection, and that's what eventually leads her to strike out on her own. And because he did Gotham City Sirens, right? Dini?
Was that
he did? Yes, he did the first like 12 or 18 issues, and then that was a little bit of Lobdell at the end.
Right, so that was I did read the Dini stuff.
They're collected in 2 trades now. I think 2 thick trades, and I think Dini's stuff does continue into the second trade
for a little bit.
Stop in Lobdell.
Because I want to say that's kind of the first inkling we get that Harley's done with Joker. What was in there, and that comes from Dini, who created her.
I think it's interesting because obviously so many Harley stories now are about life beyond the Joker, because they want to do other things with Harley because she's such this big successful character and popular character.
Right.
I think it's interesting that you have Dini, who's like so entwined with the history of Harley that even he's writing stories where it's after Joker now. It almost makes it feel more official that even he's saying, okay, she's beyond the Joker now.
That's why I feel that was his beat with her with Sirens, because that's the earliest I can remember. So he started that almost. And now they've kind of taken with it, and now every story is Harley and Joker, and him not letting it go. I mean, that was the entire subplot of Suicide Squad that got cut, I guess, right? So and then the
Yes.
entire movie of Birds of Prey.
Oh, of course. I mean, of course. What's his name? David Ayer. Now that Snyder's getting his cut, he's like, "Hey, by the way, guys, I've got like a 4-hour cut of Suicide Squad that you'll want to see, don't
No,
you?"
thank
You know
you.
what the thing is with that? I believe there is I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to see his take on Joker that much, but I believe there is a better version of that movie.
Oh,
That movie felt victim of editing and chopping.
it's definitely no. There's definitely a more coherent movie. I don't think I like it still, but it's definitely a more coherent movie.
Yeah.
Before all the editing nonsense.
Yeah.
So, I actually quite like the story in this one. It's a shame that there was more, but I actually do like the story. I enjoyed reading the story, so that's cool. And then we're on to the Tom Taylor story with Eduardo Rizzo on the art called Birthday Bugs, and leave it to Tom Taylor to somehow tell something that's kind of a sweet Joker story, but also incredibly dark at the same time.
It's so dark, but at the end, I was like, "No, this is a Joker that I like." If this was the new, where sometimes Joker has it in him, like, "Oh, this kid, I like this kid. I see a lot of me in this kid."
Yeah.
And you see him almost be tender towards the kid.
Yeah.
It adds that new layer.
The thing that makes Joker like this kid, because Joker is basically coming to like sort of see a henchman who didn't show up to a job, and he comes up into this kid who's playing with spiders and or bugs or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I've got these bugs in the box." He's like, "Well, do you ever kill them?" He's like, "Only if they try to escape. It's no fun playing with something if it's dead." And that's what makes Joker like this kid, because that's his thing with Batman, right? It's like there's no fun playing with him if he's dead.
Right? What would I do without you?
Exactly. In fact, it's funny you make that Heath Ledger Joker impression there, because the overall look isn't inspired, but the mouth definitely made me think of Ledger because of the smeared lipstick.
I feel like that, and I feel the hair. I feel like the kind of almost Johnny Rotten, right? That was never into Sex Pistols. So whoever the lead singer of Sex Pistols was, that's who this reminds me of.
Yeah. So, and I like some of the inspirations for Joker throughout the book. Even though there was too much of it in the Greg Miller one, the idea that Dark Knight and some of the other movie versions, because there's another story that comes up where, or maybe it was one that was already happened, where the Pale Moonlight was mentioned. So I do like that it's like, okay, it's not just the comic books history of Joker that we're kind of honoring. Right. There's more to it than that, which is cool.
So Joker ends up, this kid, no one's showing up to his birthday and whatnot. So, because his dad didn't mail out the invitation, so Joker takes it in his own hands to round up.
This stuff is so dark. He's literally got like a knife to a little girl's like face, going, "You're going to go to this party."
Well, and he's threatening one of their cats, and it looks like he bashed a dad with a toaster.
Oh yeah, but it's the one. It's the one above that though, where the girl's on the shoot in the playground, and he's literally got a butcher knife like to her face.
Knife that looks like
It's so good. Like it's so delightfully dark but sweet at the same time. And then basically Joker, when the dad shows up to the party, he cuts off the guy's fingers. And says, "I'm not going to kill you because, as your own child pointed out, that I can't do anything with you if you're dead." So he just cuts off a bunch of his fingers. Which neatly leads to him saying, "Hot dogs are ready," which, okay, he's going to feed a bunch of kids some human fingers. And the little kid gives him the box of bugs at the end as a present.
As a thank you.
This is...
Sergio, I'm touched. I will treasure them. Again, I read these. Also, there's certain lines that I read as Mark Hamill, Joker. That's one of them. But yeah, it was that. Needless to say, this was the best story. This is the last one I read, to be fair, also.
Okay, yeah,
best story thus far.
Yeah, I really good stuff. Really good stuff. So that's 3 good stories to great stories. That last one, the Taylor one's fantastic. So, unsurprising. But no, I really like the first 2 as well. And the next one's not bad actually. The art is pretty solid in the next one. It's a story about, and the artist and the writer and that aren't in the first couple of pages, so I'll tell you who it is at the end. But it's about Jokers, and again, this just feels a little bit Dark Knight inspired. He's in a bank robbery, and they're all wearing clown masks. And it's told a little bit out of order, where this guy who works there, this intern, who was in a back room when everything broke out, basically called for help, but he snuck up in one of the gunmen and killed him, not intentionally necessarily killing him, but ultimately killing him with the fire extinguisher by bashing him over the back of the head. and it kind of freaks him out. And the sort of the framing device is Joker kind of talking to him, still in the clown mask, saying, is this the first time you've ever killed anyone? And he's sort of crying as he says no, and he's really heartbroken about it. And the ultimate point of the story is that Joker, when he eventually he's getting to the end of the story, he says to him that, hey, you know what? The guy's name's Ronald. He's like, hey, you know what, Ronald? It turns, as it happens, I actually have a thing for heroes, rather than, victims or anything like that. Again, sort of hinting at his admiration of Batman, like, someone who's willing to do something and stand up to him is more interesting to him. So he actually just kills the rest of his henchmen. He pulls off his mask and just kills all the people who were doing the job with them. And he's like, yeah, I've got a bit of a crush on heroes. And again, very kind of Heath Ledger-y, the hair and the smeared makeup. Because sooner or later they become martyrs. So he shoots everyone else that he was working with and walks off and says that one day he'll be back to check up on him. So, it's a solid little Joker story. Again, tying into kind of some Dark Knight imagery, but with this idea of how Joker views Batman and other possible heroes. So, yeah.
That's Albuquerque and Eduardo Medeiros.
Yeah, they both co-wrote, and then Albuquerque did the art. So obviously the art's really good, as I said. Really dark, lots of shadows, very expressive. The horror of the situation. Again, the stories that treat Joker like it's a horror thing worked the best. Taylor's story was kind of an weird exception, as it was going for more of this almost... I mean, I don't like this movie, but there's almost like a Beetlejuice-esque vibe to how Joker interacts with a kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Also, the next cover it shows is one of my favourite covers of all time. It's the Detective Comics 880, where it's Joker's face being made up of the bats.
Yep.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And then that takes us on to the second last story, which is a story about this...
Tony Daniel.
This is Tony Daniel one.
Creative.
This is the mob boss who's going to see a priest to confess about all the things that he's done and confess that he's probably going to try and kill Joker because he came with his family. Most of his family are dead now. But the twist is that Joker's actually the priest wearing a mask, and he pulls off the mask at the end and kills the mob boss and just walks off. This one is just kind of thrilling in the mediocre to okay territory. It's not terrible. It's not particularly inspired either. There's been better stories already in this issue about him either being disguised or pulling off a mask or whatever. It feels more just like, this is maybe about Joker like replacing traditional crime families, which is an interesting part of Batman mythology. But I don't think this story's particularly great. It's kind of reminiscent of just Tony Daniel's work in Batman in general when he was writing them, which is it's okay and readable, but it's not doing anything particularly great either. So that was that one, which takes us on to the final story, which is the Azzarello and Behermo story. And I've got to say, Behermo's art here isn't kind of up to his typical standard. It's it's going for a style. Don't get me wrong. It's not that it's just that he's it's not like he's phoning it in. It's that they're intentionally going for a different type of pulpy style. I just don't think it speaks to Behermo's strengths, and as a result, I don't like it as much as what his art usually looks like. It's kind of they're going for this weird meta thing. There's some meta references to the dick being covered up in the Black Label book. Where they're poison ivy. Someone says so. We come in mid conversation. Someone says so they darkened it, and then Ivy says, "Did it get bigger?" And then so it does this weird kind of meta thing where Joker's like getting in and out. Basically, what it is though, it's essentially Joker in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where there's an evil nurse who's Nuts Ratchet from the movie. And he's definitely the Jack Nicholson-esque character, which I guess is a kind of a neat callback in a way because Jack Nicholson played Joker.
That's cool. I might have to go back and read this one. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. And he's kind of fighting back. And I don't want to spoil the ending too much of the movie, but let's just say it ends in a very similar fashion to that movie. And I love that movie, actually, so I don't want to spoil it. But it ends in the same way. Kind of. Some changes, but... honestly, this one was just okay. Like, the meta stuff was kind of weird. Once I realized it was doing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I was like, I wish it just sort of did that on its own rather than all the weird meta stuff at the start. It just kind of felt a bit erratic to me at the beginning. But that was the last story. Wrap it up. But I mean, I really like 3 of those stories. I flat out loved one of those 3 at that. There was a couple of decent ones, a couple of mediocre ones. I'd say the Denny one was good, just with the art not being to my taste. There was only 1 or 2 that I thought were outright kind of wonky in a way that I didn't like. So overall, I'd say this was more of a success, this one, than the Catwoman. This felt more like the sort of the balance of quality that I'd come to expect in these, when there's just a few good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely wasn't as disappointing as the Catwoman one. It actually fit more of the honoring the character, like you just said with that the Azarello and Bermejo one. That one seems to be, this is the spirit of the character told in a fun way. You know, what we're gonna do, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Joker, in Arkham, and that's kind of what you want to see in this. Why I like the Meadow one in Catwoman last week so much, because it was.
Does this mean that we have to do, like, next time we have some sort of reason to do a Joker special? Do we have to do someone doing like A Knight's Tale but with the Joker, because they have to do a Heath Ledger movie, or maybe 10 things I hate about you? No. 10 things I hate about you.
Again, wouldn't say no. I love 10 things. I also really like A Knight's Tale. So
I've never seen A Knight's Tale, but I've seen 10 things.
It's very early 2000s fun.
Sure.
Yeah, like it plays with the anachronistic parts. Plus it's got a shoot.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt
From Firefly.
Oh, I was thinking of 10 things. You're thinking of Alan Tudyk.
No. Huh?
Alan Tudyk you're thinking of.
Yeah, it's got Tudyk. That was the first time I remember seeing him. He's a lot of fun in that one.
I have a question. How do you do the Brokeback Mountain take with Joker?
Oh, Joker and Batman. Easy. The race itself.
Do you think that'll work nicely?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
You could call it Brokebat Mountain, too.
And you just have Joker say to Batman, I wish I knew how to quit you. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. It's so easy.
Yeah. You mentioned the Catwoman, in comparison. I did see Liam Sharp talking about his story over the week. And I know you guys were like, it wasn't up to his usual standard. And to explain that, I don't think he put this out there to explain reviews, but more he kind of just shared the story of how he got the gig on doing his story. Basically, someone pulled out, whatever reason, we don't really know the exact, but they were like, we need to fill 3 pages quick. So he pitched the story, wrote it, and drew it, inked it, and colored it, all within 24 hours.
Whoa.
And that's a very impressive. But at the same time, I don't know.
Couldn't we just have had 97 pages?
I guess they'd already promised this many pages, so they're like, shit, we need to do it.
Which again, it makes sense to why the quality wasn't there, and it kind of felt like an afterthought.
Because it was literally an afterthought.
It was literally, I need to knock this out in a day. The entire process, like the pitch, getting the pitch approved, writing it, drawing it, everything in 24 hours. That's a busy day.
Yeah, good on Sharp too for playing with the 9 lives idea of Selena, but at the same time, I'm not going to excuse it.
Yeah, ultimately it's still not that good, but at the very least, I won't blame him for it, because, if you had to do a 3-page story, write art and everything in one day, that'd probably be the quality you'd come out with, or even worse.
I remember being in film school in my production 1 class when you're learning, making all these shorts, with the stuff that you learn. My teacher always saying, running into difficulties is not an excuse for things, so just because something happened, you still have to have your projects turned in, and I feel like Liam Sharp is an expert on that. So.
As for
like I said, I don't think he was making an excuse when he did it. I think he was just like, here's a fun story.
As for ratings, I guess I don't know if Matt should rate it because he didn't finish it, but I'll give it a rating. I feel like having 3 worthwhile stories, 3 stories that I recommend reading, is enough to kind of say that it's worth reading the book. I think when it comes to these specials, because 3 is a good number. 3 is okay, you've got a trio of stories, then you've got some other ones that are pretty solid as well, just not as good, and obviously a couple of not so good ones. But I'm gonna give this a 7.5 overall. I would say you've got the 3 stories that are really worth reading. There's probably a couple that you could skip, but it's hard to know what those are before you go in, unless someone like us tells you. If you listen to this review and we tell you which ones are good or not. Yep. But
suffice to say that if Tom Taylor is doing one of these, it's probably worth it, because I still need to track down the Supergirl story.
Oh God, it's so good.
That was a good little short story.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend checking this out, more so than the Catwoman one. I think, not that I'm surprised that Joker got more love than Catwoman, but I don't know if that's intentional.
They've all been around roughly the same amount of time, right? Joker, Catwoman, Batman.
More or less, yeah.
So it makes sense that these are the 3 they went with.
Well, I mean,
So-
it literally like was. That's why they fell like back to back in the months, because they both
Yeah.
debuted right back at the start of the Batman.
I know you
Yeah.
had Catwoman started in Batman issue 1, right?
So
that
Joker.
was Joker as well. Okay,
Joker. Hmm?
so which is obviously slightly after Batman, which was it was like a few months after.
Because
a year.
Golden Age stuff's kind of hard to read, so I've not read much, but I have read Batman issue 1 and Joker, because that was back when there was like 4 stories per issue, because they were shorter, but obviously more dense. Joker was in both the first and last story in the first issue of Batman.
Okay, I mean I've read it as well at some point in my time reading comics, just out of a curiosity factor more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember it that well. To be honest
Oh,
with
I mean, not.
and more to the point is, I couldn't have told you if that was Joker's first appearance off the top of my head, or if he'd appeared in a issue of Detective before.
No, I can tell you that's his first appearance. The only other thing I can tell you about the story is that he basically announces he's going to kill certain people, so the police sort of like get around people, and eventually he targets Bruce Wayne. So that's kind of like that middle section of Dark Knight with him targeting people. It's kind of based on that element of issue 1 of Batman. But
So, real quick, now that we're talking about this, I read right where it was. It was something because of Denny O'Neil, but people were saying that the Dark Knight version of Batman is one of the worst versions, like the Nolan, and I just don't see that.
I would say it's a very different version, because he's not really a detective, is he? Let's be fair.
No, but that's not what that crux is. The crux is of the Dark Knight is this is a man that's been inspired to change things, right?
in terms of his ideologies, he's the best on-screen Batman.
Right, and so I see a
best
lot of
live
people
action.
going.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, well, yeah,
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. But like, so I was reading this because I think a lot of people. I'm trying to remember the context. People were talking about Denny O'Neil's Batman, and I don't know. I feel there's a lot of the Denny O'Neil Batman in Nolan's because of the Frank Miller inspiration with Year One, and then whatnot. But
I mean,
yeah,
it's Talia being in it at all.
what's that?
Talia being in the third one.
Well, and I remember Denny O'Neil going that he felt that they should have swapped the actresses. That his version of Talia is much closer to Anne Hathaway, than and that's not that he was upset, but he was like, I think he got the actresses reversed, and he could have had Selena as I'm drawing a blank on the actress's name. Anyways,
Marion
who played Talia? Yes, Cotillard.
Yeah,
So,
there you
but
go.
no, I not that this I want to make sure that I'm not disrespecting people's viewpoints or whatnot, but you ever been hit with stupidity that it just leaves you like
Confounded.
where you're like Nolan's Batman's the worst version of Batman. I'm just like, okay, you can not like those movies, but it's a pretty damn good version of Batman. And just because he's not a detective doesn't disqualify. I feel there's a lot of overlap with the people that defend him. He didn't actually kill people in Batman v Superman. I was like, well, no, he
did.
Batman
He
guns
did.
on it.
At worst, I will take first-degree manslaughter. For that.
Right. That's it. So I feel like there's a lot of overlap with those, but I was reading these comments either on Twitter or Reddit, I can't remember where. That was just like, I don't understand you.
I mean,
Matt, why are you opening cans of worms here? Because people are going to start commenting about how technically there's deaths in the Nolan movies too. There is.
I know.
Technically there is, but
That's fine.
there's
But I'm just saying.
there's context
that-
here.
Yeah, I mean,
This is why the episodes are so
Again-
goddamn long, you know that? Because Matt has just these random thoughts that he has to go on and we end up spending 10 minutes
we
on.
can move on. We were talking about Joker iterations, and that one just sparked to mind.
Okay, yes. Alright. Alright, Joker. That was Joker.
Rate it. Rate it.
I did rate it. 7.5.
Give it a 7.5. Come on,
Gotcha.
Matt, keep up.
Yeah. Alright.
Sorry.
Okay. Batman, 92. James Tynion the fourth writing. Guillem March, unfortunately, on the art.
Okay,
What
but
a
it
return.
wasn't that bad. It wasn't as upset. Maybe I'm just
We were reading different books then, Matt.
it wasn't good, but it wasn't like
His Riddler is
No.
one of the most hideous things I've ever seen.
yeah.
You've not been reading action though, Connor, so your bar's in a different place.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that's
sorry.
what it is.
I'm sorry for hating his Cobblepot, for hating his Riddler, for just not liking his art. I won't apologize for that.
I
Actually.
get
You
it.
that.
I
You
don't.
get that
I would
apology.
never
Come on.
say Guillem March is one of my favorite artists, but I also wouldn't put this up there as among his worst, even on this arc.
It's
Like,
bizarre to me how clean his women are, and I mean this in the sense that if you look at any of the men he draws, they're full of like all these, wrinkles. Like if you look at like Bullock on like the first second page, you've got all like the like rolls of fat going down his neck, and it doesn't. It looks rough, and then you get to the page where it's Catwoman and
Selena Harley.
And it's just completely smooth skin, absolutely
blemish. I'll
free.
be honest. Before I got to the end of the book, I thought there was a different artist on those.
So did I.
Those pages,
and that's why I was saying it wasn't that bad. If Guillem March can make me think his art's someone else's, good.
He's did something right. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
So the
he
book
draws women fine, apparently.
So the book boils down to two sides. One is the Riddler making a giant crossword out of the city, and if Batman doesn't get the answers correct to the riddles to fill in the blanks, he'll start setting off bombs. So Batman's solving a lot of riddles, which I think that was a mistake in one of the bubbles, actually, at one point.
Yeah.
There's a point where Riddler says the third letter is T from this other word, and then Batman's answer to the thing is 12, and I'm like, but 12's not the third, the T is the first letter.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
I also thought it was really weird how it was like, really well-known riddles.
Sure, yeah. Hey, it's hard to research smart riddles, right, when you're a writer.
I know, but like these are all like common riddles I've heard before. I've probably read Riddler doing these riddles before.
I don't know. He could have consulted with a crossword writer. I mean, that's still a thing in newspapers to figure out some new ones or whatever. Because that's what I think it comes down to is like that is a challenge, like to do crosswords and make sure everything fits and
there's an art to that.
Yeah. And so I'm not going to fault him there, but I just like also are crossword hints really? I mean, I guess they're riddles.
Well, the ones Riddler does are more Ridley than usual.
Yeah. So, and I did like how
cryptic crosswords, aren't they? It's just kind of what riddles do it.
Yeah. So Batman's got a bat train. Just the vehicles.
Keeping this streak going of just new random vehicles or gadgets.
Yeah, vehicles every day. And Riddler's pissed that Batman's getting all these answers because his communication so Lucius can't help him, but he's still getting all these things right. In fact, I was happy though that Batman at one point did ask, like, have I got any letters revealed yet? Because I was like, so up until that point he was just answering riddles and getting them right. I'm like, is he never going to use the fact that it's a crossword to his advantage and like get a hint?
And he did, right? Yeah. That's where he asked.
I like that Riddler's like, hey, if you were above ground like you're supposed to be, you'd see the board like everyone else in Gotham.
Yeah, no. He's like, no, but you never specified that, so technically I played by the rules. You can't just enforce that now halfway through the game. And Riddler agrees with that. Meanwhile, Selena and Harley are getting attacked by all these, was it? The
zombie cops?
Zombie cops?
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, they're getting to this underground sort of banker, essentially. This off-the-books thing that Selena knows about that she wants to go. But when they get there, there's a conflict of interest because inside Punchline's already there doing Joker business. And this is really the proper debut of Punchline. I know we've been teases of it before, but this is the proper debut.
Yeah, now this is the one the speculators should have gone nuts for. Not Hell Arisen 3, not the Joker special. This.
I know. This is definitely the debut because it's, you've got the full page of her there as, this is her actual reveal, right?
Yeah.
Right.
With all the cleavage on show because March apparently can't have
March, yeah.
I read Batman first, which I think worked well because I think reading the Joker story as the first proper appearance is kind of weird. It worked better having context for her first.
Yeah, no, it is. And I was just going to say, I would like some variance in the designs of women. I don't need them all to be big, busty, hippie henchwomen. Make her distinct from Harley. Then, you know what I mean? Like
the only way I can kind of justify this one in some sense is that she is similar to Harley intentionally. She is very much the replacement, so she's reminiscent.
I mean, I did enjoy the dialogue though with Harley realizing who she is, and Selena being like, I think that's Joker's new girlfriend, Harley, and her like, oh boy, like I actually kind of appreciated the reaction and Harley basically saying, look, one day you're going to be over this shit and we're going to have a nice talk about how weird it is being with Joker and blah, blah, blah. Although, given the context we have now from the other story about how she's more of a devout, I don't want to quite say terrorist, but she's kind of virgin on that.
No, she's almost like a Manson girl, right?
Yeah. but she's not like
Yeah.
Harley. I don't think she's going to get over it the same way Harley did.
No.
I don't
Oh,
think so.
no.
And Tynion said, it's so long ago now when he was teasing Punchline, in his newsletter, that when we thought we were going to be reading this issue months ago, his intention is no, Punchline's just an evil piece of shit, basically. And that's fine.
Yeah, she's anti-Harley, right?
Harley got redeemed over the years, and and he obviously doesn't control Punchline forever. He can't say for sure that she'll never be turned. But the plan right now is no, she's evil. She's what Harley was supposed to be.
I can almost see if Punchline breaks off on her own, it's because Joker's not going far enough.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the pupil becomes the master, and then it becomes a bigger problem down the line. Like, that's something I could definitely see with this character.
Yeah, I could see some of that. But they get into a big fight, of course. Catwoman gets the banker dude to basically do what she says by dropping a lot of intel about where he lives, where his safe is, and threatening to like yell at the combination. And
the design of this guy was weird. So I just started watching Watchmen the other day.
Oh, really?
I've seen like the first 2 episodes. Please tell me that the whole point of that show is that the cops shouldn't be all in masks and have no culpability.
Yeah, we're not saying nothing.
Because this is uncomfortable. But the design of the underbroker with the mask really reminded me of one of the guy, the guy in the machine who kind of flashes all the Rorschach images.
All I'll say about Watchmen, the TV show, is don't worry. By the end, it's very anti-supremacist. All right, I'll just.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
right now, I'm like, this feels uncomfortable.
You going through it right now must seem like it was a premonition of things to come.
Honestly, right now, given that I'm only 2 episodes in, it feels tone deaf more than anything.
And no, it's considering when it came out. I know Lindelof gets a lot of crap for some of his stuff. This actually seems like it was thought out, and it is a very worthy sequel.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Besides, you haven't even got to Lube Man yet. Just get to Lube Man and all will be fine.
I'm sold. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to
just.
But more, I was this guy. He reminded me of with the shiny mask.
Yeah,
it really reminded me of that.
No, I can see why. The Manhattan episode is one of the best episodes of TV in years. Episode, I think it's 9 because there's 10 episodes total. I think 9's the one that's like.
It's only 9.
Or let's say it then. It's the one before the last one. It's just.
So I remember thinking it was an odd number.
Shockingly good.
So as good as Doomsday Clock is to a sequel to the actual source material of Watchmen, that one feels like a proper. This is what Watchmen meant to comics. This one is, well, what were the themes Alan Moore was playing with? The show hits on those.
I'm enjoying it so far. Don't get me wrong. It's just it's uncomfortable.
Good.
It should be. I feel like this is going to be the point, but I'm not entirely sure.
Don't worry. There's episodes that make it very clear what the point's ultimately going to be.
There were parts where I went, oh, they played me. They got me good.
I've been trying to make a point. We review a lot of TV, right? I've been trying to make a point this year of watching stuff for myself, just kind of sitting down in the evening and watching an episode or something. I started doing that this week.
All right.
One of the worst panels in the art is when Selena, she's got the whip round Underbroker's neck, and she's standing on him, and it's just this weird, ugly shot of let's look at all her body at once from this top-down perspective. It is so weird.
Yeah, the proportions are all over the place just to give us the ass shot.
She has negative body fat percentage, if that's the case.
It's
I'm just saying,
which is huge, and then we'll still see her cleavage, sticking out of the front. But it's like, what is going on here?
Yeah, Batman, the last couple of pages, Batman finds Riddler, and Riddler's like, shocked, how did you find me, blah, blah, blah. And Deathstroke, because Deathstroke, we should mention, is in handcuffs and has been carted along the whole time for this ride, because he was fighting Batman at the end of the last issue. Is like, wait, is this every night for you? And he's like, yeah, pretty much. So he knocks out Deathstroke with some severe elephant tranquilizers, and then the designer shows up, and we get this full page, final reveal of him saying, "Hello, Bruce. I know who you are. Please come in. We should talk a little."
He sat inside Wayne Manor.
Yeah, but he's actually in the same room, but the bat came through the window.
Yes. Yeah. He's in that chair.
So, it's fine. I mean, I will say that it felt like they were building up Riddler to be more than just this, to be this stopgap before. I mean, obviously the designer was always the end game. Don't get me wrong, but This feels like Riddler's inclusion was a little bit underplayed.
I have to wonder though if this was partially down to the extended unplanned break, in that we've had months leading into this Riddler issue and thinking, oh, we're building up a Riddler thing in our minds. That's the last thing that happened. Whereas maybe if it had just been the next issue, we wouldn't have felt it as much.
Either there's a second designer where he's very hard to kill, because we all know Joker killed this guy in a previous issue. So what's he doing sitting there in the chair?
Well, we already saw him once in present day, so I mean, we already had that mystery.
I say I don't even remember.
Yeah, not that I blame you, Matt, because it's been months, but
it's been
this is the problem with all comics right now, and we have to try not to hold the comics themselves responsible.
Oh yeah, I'm not blaming the story for that. I noticed
some comics I've been reading have been adding, even ones that don't usually have a recap page at the start. Like they added it in last minute. Went okay, we might need this.
Well, I'm going back and reading X-Men Red with Tom Taylor. And, you know, there's long periods between issues that are meeting because of catching up on all this stuff. Those have recap pages, which are very helpful.
Yeah.
Of everything that's going on. So,
right. If there's one thing Marvel do that I wish DC copied, recap pages, do it.
Well, like they've started doing them recently in some books, like Far Sector. I think Amethyst had them. So they're kind of seeping in on some of the fringe books. So, yeah, maybe we can get that adopted wide scale. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Even if it's a digital only thing, because you know, there's a way to print the extra page. Well, fine, just print a digital copy so I can see it. Please make it
very selfish.
Whatever. So that is Batman. We'll just rate it. So I mean, obviously the art's kind of rough, but I did enjoy the story. I enjoyed both sides of the story pretty much. So see where it goes. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this a 7. It's pretty good, but the art is all over the place.
That's fair. Connor?
I'm going to give it a 7.5 because I really like a lot of the writing and a lot of the dialogue in particular. Not even things like Deathstroke at the end being like, you know, after he says, you know, is this every night? He's like, why do people live here? But the art does drag it down a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with Connor here at 7.5. It'll even Matt be the low point, which is rare. But I actually really like the story as well. I like both Batman playing the crossword, you know, city game. I enjoyed the ending, and I really enjoyed like Harley and Catwoman's banter when they're realizing who Punchline is, and Harley's question it, and then Selina has to kind of sort of, Harley, I think that's his new girlfriend.
I'm still confused by that final panel on that page where Harley's saying "who boy." Selina's kind of winking, but like the face doesn't match up with a cheeky wink expression, and I don't understand what it's supposed to be.
Again,
I genuinely don't.
The art dragging it. Although I actually think the art on Harley herself in that panel's fine, but yeah, Selina's wonky, the shit there. But I love her just like, it's not a jealousy thing, it's like a, oh boy.
You're in for it. You have no idea what you just stepped in.
Yeah, so no, 7.5 for me. Justice League 46, Robert Venditti writing, with both Xermanico and Robson Rocha on the art. So a bit of a mix here. Although the art, I mean, obviously I like Rocha quite a bit. Xermanico is obviously even better. So the art is really good overall. So that's point number one. The Justice League are on Themyscira, of course. The Amazons are a little bit pissed that Diana dared to bring all these gentlemen with her. They're very upset. Eventually, the Spectre's wrath though hits them, and we get. And this is essentially what this arc has been for me. And I'm not even really complaining, because once the fighting started, these spreads and pages of the fighting with the Amazons and the Justice League are pretty gorgeous for the most part. So
mostly the Xermanico stuff in the fights, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, you know what? I'm enjoying this. It's complete and utter fluff in terms of a story, because it's just lots of fighting, but it's very pretty fighting, and I'm kind of enjoying it.
This issue is so frustrating for me, because I get into it, and every time I'm just into it, like the fight is great. I'm like, oh, this is some good stuff. Like it's like Diana calling, oh, this is what the Amazons are going to do. This is their plan.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah,
directing the team, great stuff. And every time I'm just into it, I turn the page and I get to the next panel and I just read, the Spectre is right, and I'm like, oh, for God's sake, not this shit again.
I mean, because that full page spread of her shouting Justice League Advance with them all kind of, you know, that really good stuff. Because that's right at the end of her calling all the Amazon moves, like, because she's like, oh, they're going to fire spears here, so, you know, Flash, take care of them. Batman, they're about to do this, so you take care of that. You know, it's really smart that she knows all their tactics, so she's kind of like directing everyone. That's really good. Once they realize that they're never really going to be able to, they get away, but they realize, wait, if we leave them on their own, they're just going to start killing each other because that's what this does. So John stays behind and makes a Green Lantern Corps with his ring to sort of try and keep them all apart and stop them from killing each other.
This was just to give the artist an excuse to draw some of his favorite lanterns.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I will say notable exception here of Jess and Baz in this roster.
Yeah, well, they weren't in his Hal and Pal runs that often, so
Yeah, this is a lot of his Hal and Pal's lines.
I mean,
like
Space Ape's right there. Like,
There's Alaska, Jessica Cruz, and
Yolandi.
I find that quite frankly insulting. So, but anyway, the rest of the league go to where this gate is to this land and Tartarus, yes. And Wonder Woman ends up getting angry and lifting the boulder when everyone else is trying. I do question here why Batman's also shoving this boulder along with Superman and Aquaman. I'm like, Batman, like your strength
Team
is
Spirit. Team Spirit.
He's helping.
Oh, Mike.
Yeah, he's
like, but Batman's strength here in comparison to those is so minuscule that he's having no effect.
It's like, he's helping, like a younger sibling that wants to help. And you're just like, all right, let them pretend they're helping.
Yeah, but Wonder Woman's like, no, F this boulder, and she throws it away. Here, my Justice League, to the best glory holes in all the land. Do you know what? I cracked that joke, and as I say it, I realised that when this is cut up on YouTube in individual parts, there'll be no context for that joke whatsoever.
No, that's okay though. They went right into the glory hole.
Go listen to the full, or watch the full version, or listen to the full version. The intro had a lot of glory hole talk for reasons. I won't get into it. Just there was set up for it though. There was set up.
So much glory holes this week.
So many.
Fully endorsed by the state of New York. So they find Corrigan, and they it's like, hey, we have to put the Spectre back in his bottle, all the rest of it. But the big twist here is that Tartarus, the as he calls himself, the original god, the first god.
That checks out with mythology as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Tartarus was one of was the first. That's why he was made the prison weirdly.
Yeah. So he wants to get out, and now that the door's open because the Justice League have come wandering in, he can get out. I mean, there's not much of a reason why he couldn't get out when Corrigan first came himself, but maybe they'll address that.
Because they resealed it after Corrigan.
Yeah.
Like, they threw Corrigan in and put the boulder back in front. The boulder
And now
is
it's open.
Sure.
sealed.
Yeah. Whereas Wonder Woman just lobbed it.
Threw it aside and didn't really.
She yeeted it into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, I'm having fun. It's in terms of the rompiness of it, because the art's so fun and good and big, and all these big splash pages and action sequences. That part I'm enjoying. It's kind of a nothing story ultimately, but I'm enjoying reading it.
Fine. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the next issue because there shouldn't be any more. The Spectre is right, because every time I saw that, and it would go like 3-4 pages and then just bring it back up again. I'd be like, oh. It just reminded me of all the stuff I hated of that in the last issue.
I feel like it's not actually that bad in this issue. It's just because you're remembering the repetition of last issue.
Yeah, it's only like 2 or 3 times in this issue, but it's just when I'm getting into the beats. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling this now. And then it does that, and it completely breaks the momentum for me because it's got this connotations of the previous issue.
How are you feeling about this one, Matt?
No, it's fine. It feels like a middle of an arc, though. Like, it's fine. It just kind of goes through its paces to get through the story. There's no, outside the Green Lantern moment, I didn't have a wow, this is cool, like I had on other Venditti stuff.
It's enjoyable schlock is pretty much what I would sum up as.
Yeah,
I think Wonder Woman directing the team is the highlight of the issue for me.
Mm-hmm.
Might even be the highlight of the arc so far, to be honest. I think it was a really fun, mechanical, sort of baked into the characters. Like,
it's still really fun, and that's I think my favorite thing with Venditti and Justice League is that it's still fun. Like when Sodom Yacht showed up, like that's cool. That's a nice fun little callback.
I think the story concept was definitely better in the first arc with the Daxamites, but I think I'm enjoying this one more because it's less clunky. It's just kind of
It's very aware that it's not doing anything serious. It's just kind of having a bit of fun.
Yeah, what are you giving it, Matt?
I'm gonna go to 7.5.
Connor?
6.5 from me. Enjoyable, but the flow is not quite there for me entirely.
I'm going to get rid of the decimal points and just go with a nice solid straight 7.
Mm.
So there we go. Justice League 40 something.
6.
There you go. The Flash 755. Joshua Williamson writing with Rafa Sandavol on the art. So at the end of this arc, so this is the end of the penultimate arc, I suppose, to put it in context of where we're going next. So I'm going to say something right here before we get into the details here. There's a page towards the end of this issue that I actually love.
Yeah, me too. I wonder if it's the same thing.
It might be, because so basically this issue is we have, the multiverse has been erased because of Paradox. Flash, Godspeed, and Reverse Flash all have to work together. Flash even has to kind of trust Reverse Flash because he's like, okay, the plan is go back in time and stop Paradox from becoming Paradox, but not by killing him, by saving him.
Kill him.
Yeah. By
I know that's your thing, Thon. Do not kill him, or you'll doom us all. And there's flaws in this storytelling here because Reverse Flash has the moment where he goes to vibrate his hand, and it's I mean, I don't know if the TV show took this from a specific comic in the past, but it felt very TV show-esque the way he was vibrating his hand. No, I think that's how he killed Iris, and that's what led to Barry killing him. You're right. And
the TV show, the TV show basically had him threatened to do it every other week for a while. So
seeing evil Wells hold up his hand like that,
So he goes to do it in the past, and there's actually there's a lot of wonky storytelling here where it never really justifies why Thawne doesn't just kill him anyway. Beyond just other plans. It also doesn't. I mean, there's a couple of lines that kind of try to explain why when Paradox went into the past and killed Barry a ton of times, it created paradoxes. But when Thawne's going to do it, it's going to reset the whole timeline rather than create a paradox.
So my take on that is that Paradox doesn't actually know about time travel, and that Paradox's whole thing is to create paradoxes so he can do it as messy as he wants. He's gaining power from that, whereas Thawne is much more of a scientist, because that's why they sent him to do this, because both Godspeed and Barry are real messy, and it's just going to create more paradoxes. And
that's the explanation.
That was my take.
Yeah, that's the explanation, and it just feels a bit sort of vague to me. It's he knows how to manipulate time, so he can do it. I don't know. It felt a little bit clunky in its reasoning.
I didn't feel that. I felt it very in line with what Williamson's been telling us about Barry and his time travel shenanigans.
So
I mean, at least since Flashpoint.
So Flash and Godspeed are basically ducking and diving in the Paradox sort of land against the big version of Paradox, but he fades away when Reverse Flash saves human Paradox. He fades away. They're running to try and get out of this land as it's disappearing, and we can't go fast enough without the treadmill. But then Thawne shows up, and it's all three of us with my negative force. We can get out of here. So he's even there to kind of help.
He gives them a drift out almost, like a pole. And you're like, oh man, Thawne, and it goes into his character of he did start wanting to be a hero with the Flash. He wanted to be better than the Flash.
And it's playing with all this stuff, but they come back to present day. Barry sees Iris and hugs her, and it's a long story. So up until this point in the issue, it's not been terrible. There's some wonky elements to it, whatever. And they're kind of playing with the idea that Reverse Flash has some good in him. Okay. At the bottom of this page, August sort of turns to him and says, "Hey, you're from the future. Do you happen to know who killed my brother?" Because that was August's thing right from the start, was that his brother was killed, and he wanted to find out who it was. And the next page is a full page spread. Probably the best page in the Flash in years. Reverse Flash says, "Oh, that was me, I did that," and then just snaps August's neck there and kills him.
Boom. So I let out an actual holy shit as I was reading this on, I think, Wednesday.
This is fun. I can't believe Williamson had this in the tank. He just everything August was building up to. I did that. Snap, dead.
Yeah, and he developed August and has had him. He was the initial villain. And then he ran through, and he's like, oh, no, he's more flawed. He's like an anti-hero. He wants to make up for what he did. And you're like, oh, he's another worthy addition to the Flash family. And he goes, gotcha.
Yeah.
And Zoom's going to zoom. That's just it.
What makes this work, though, is that because if this was some other random character who just shown up and did this, it would feel really kind of weird and out of left field. But Thawne just going nonchalantly, "Oh yeah, that was me. I killed your brother," and then just kills August there and then.
Yeah.
it feels so deliciously evil, and like no,
Yep.
like this issue maybe made you think like, well, maybe he's got a bit of good in him. He's turning over a new leaf. Maybe he's he's thinking of being better. He did the right thing earlier, and he does something just so suddenly drastically evil and vicious. It's like, holy crap! I am actually bizarrely kind of excited for Flash versus Thawne in this last arc, just because of this.
Me too. I was telling Connor earlier in the week because he was asking. I forget how we got talking about Flash, and comics. I think I went on to Twitter.
I think I was asking you. Oh yeah, it was on Twitter, and I was like, I was like, well, it's somewhat enough to make me want to read however many issues I missed, and you were like, I'll DM you the details.
For you. Right. So, and I did, and I told him as this was going on, and it's just like what you said, Pete. Like it made me excited to see where this is going to go, and I'm glad that I jumped back on, because had I not, and you would have been saying this, I was like, oh, I got to get caught up now, because just the way that it was handled, it is almost if this is wrestling, this is Shawn in the barbershop, right? Where you're like, okay, I know Shawn Michaels can be a little shit, but maybe there's something in there with him. And then no, he kicks his partner through the window and he goes off on his own.
No, this started with just tangentially bringing me into the conversation by bringing me up, and then throwing straight into wrestling. And I'm like,
actually, to go with maybe a better wrestling analogy here.
Oh, yeah, that's much better.
It was me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin.
That was the beginning, but just the way that Williamson handled it, and I wish this wasn't double shipping, and he could get rid of a lot of the fluff, because I feel that's a lot of my problem with his is he's just writing to fill issues, and there's certain beats he wanted to get through to get to this point, because ultimately it's going to come down to Barry versus Thawne.
Don't get me wrong, I do think there's some conceptual issue or problems with, year one, some of the stuff with Paradox conceptually just isn't all that great. But like this moment convinced me that okay, he still has some good Flash left in him, and it's just one final story. So if you can go out and because there was some obviously dips here or there, but it was really solid for the first like 50, 60 issues.
Flash War.
Yeah, and then it kind of started to kind of stagnate a little bit, and then these last year or so, it's kind of been rough. And I really like. I'm actually, because he's got an ending now, because he's actually wrapping things up. He doesn't have to stall. He can just do his final 4 or 5 issue story that's going to blow up.
We still have that thing of who Zoom was working for. That still hasn't been revealed.
Yeah, and the final page, by the way. So after this moment, Barry obviously rushes in because he sees what happens. Thawne punches him, a million times at super speed, leaves him sort of bloody and beaten, and Irish's arms. And the last page is Thawne speeding off, and he says, "You know what? It's time for me to get my family of my own, a reverse Flash family." And then it's like these last like 3 pages are perfect.
Right. And as a longtime Flash fan, this could mean inertia, right? We haven't seen since Rogue's Revenge.
Which, by the way, the next time on at the bottom is a wonderful pun. It says, "The Rise of the Legion of Zoom."
Right, which is pretty good. And who else can this be, though? Who else are some of these darker speedsters that are going to join up with them?
What's Solomon up to right now? What's Solomon doing?
I think I remember the last thing is he was working for who I thought was Superboy Prime, but I don't think it is, because it looks like Superboy Prime is going to be dealing with Metal. I think he shows up in Speed Metal.
If Didio was still here, Wally would be on the Reverse Flash team.
Easily.
But luckily we're out of that.
Whoever it is, I'm there. The Flash being a family is one of the things that I love so much about this section of
Don't get me
DCU.
wrong. The quality of this final story could just be as weak or whatever as a lot of what we've had in the last year and a half.
Right, but we're going into it with high bar. The
last 3 or 4 pages of this issue are basically perfect, like Reverse Flash material, and I'm excited to at least see if we can wrap it up in the final. I think it's only like a 4-issue arc as well, maybe a little bit more than that, but it has to be a little bit more than that because it's ending in September. So September, August, July, 7. So 7 issues left.
7, 8, yeah.
7 issues left.
Yeah, because he's not doing the annual because that's Tom Taylor, right? So that's not going to be part of it this time.
No, he is writing the annual. It's still him. Yeah. It's Suicide Squad stuff, and they're in it, but I'm pretty sure Williamson's still the writer on it.
Oh shoot! I thought. That
I was reading it either way, so.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna read it, but I mean, it definitely.
Yeah. So hey, you know what? And the art on that page, the big page, the neck snapping page is really good as well.
Yes, it is.
So no. So despite the fact that the first 2/3 of the issue are still just kind of they're not bad version of what we've had recently. That last little chunk is something special. So hopefully at least there's more good stuff. Matt, what are you giving this issue?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5. I really liked it.
This is conflicting because, like I say, the first 2/3 I don't necessarily think are anything particularly above and beyond what we've had recently. It's not bad, but it's not great. And then the ending's this, so I'm going to give it an 8. Basically elevated, like I would say the last 3 pages elevates, or last 4 pages elevates this like a whole 2 points. That's kind of how good that last few pages are.
Also, we're done with Paradox, and that's stupid design.
That's also good. Yes.
Redundant character. I just don't need. Gone.
Nope. I concur. So there you go. That is the Flash. Legion of Superheroes issue 6. Brian Michael Bendis writing with Ryan Sook on art. So
you got your issues before the speculators got in there.
Oh, is this another one that they've been? Yeah, because
of
the Gold Lantern.
Gold Lantern. Yeah.
Could end up being nothing, but my shop didn't get theirs from Diamond, so I didn't get it, even though it's on my poll. Hopefully, I get one. And I'll track it down.
Or it's going to be another Hell Arisen issue 3.
Yeah, but let's hope not, because it's Legion, and I've had that on my. It's not like Hell Arisen where I didn't have it on my poll. I was just grabbing it when I would go into the shop. This I've had since they announced it. I was like, make sure I am on there. Like
now,
yeah.
Of all the books that I was worried about coming back to after months away, this was the one I was the most concerned about.
Yep.
Lots and lots of characters to remember.
Lots of characters had just even the name of the villain group, for example. Until they said it later on, I was like, I couldn't tell you who the villains are right now. I have no idea.
Can you tell me what they are right now?
Well, no, because I'm bad at remembering names, but I'll know it when we get to the page.
I just said it.
I didn't hear you because we both spoke at the same time.
It's the Horaz.
Thank you, Horaz.
And General Na.
Yes.
I don't blame you for not remembering that.
Yeah. So yeah, basically they're evacuating New Earth because the Haraz have showed up and they're causing chaos. They're after Aquaman's trident, and basically this is an issue where everyone's just kind of trying to solve this. The people are evacuating in the streets. Superboy and Saturn Girl are flying into space to take on the ships. Some others are already up there. Art's really good. Sook's obviously his art's wonderful. Gold Lantern shows up kind of as a new character here. And this actually was a lot quicker to read than I thought it was, and it's mainly because there's a big bulk in the middle of the issue, which is 2-page spreads that are mostly just action. Some of them have no dialogue whatsoever. In fact, so there's one where it's like several characters being knocked back from the army, and it's kind of like chaos. But then the page after that, it's basically your Legion Trinity of Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad, and Cosmic Boy. And basically, there's a little bit of Superboy sort of inserted in boxes, but it's this big sort of spread just showing all 3 of those in action. So really beautiful issue. Even the page after that's a 2-page layout. There's like 5 2-page layouts in a row. It's actually kind of insane.
Yeah.
But I have to admit though, I have forgotten some things. Like I don't remember. Like, 'cause remember how Brand had the Legion either arrested or they were being told to stand down, and then things broke out. Like, I don't remember the exact context of that, and so when Brand is sort of congratulating them and saying the Legion saved the Earth here at the end, I was like, wait, was she not against them last time? I was a little struggling to remember the exact context of that.
I'm with you on that one because I thought the same thing.
Yeah,
but it could be part of the character development too.
Yeah.
Don't forget that Brand's a shapeshifter. She's Derlin.
I don't know what I missed, but when I came back, I think I heard Pete say save the Earth, save the Legion, was it?
No. I was just saying that the Legion saved the new Earth. That's all. That was it.
It was just the way you phrased something. It sounded like it reminded me of Heroes, and I was like,
save the girl, save the world.
Save the cheerleader, save the world. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's it. And I was like, why did whatever's going on in this book? Why did that just remind me of that show?
Yeah, that was not what I was.
That
was not the point I was getting across. I could guarantee you that.
We all agree that Heroes only has 1 season, correct?
Yeah, and even that's only like only half of that's really good. There's like
Well,
the first half of it was enjoyable, and then there was that one great episode in the second half, Company Man, and then the ending was kind of a flop.
I like the first season a lot, and I think the fourth season is quite good. 2 and 3 are terrible.
I have to admit, though,
which one's the fourth season?
The last one.
No, I know that, but what happened?
I think they did the carnival stuff.
Okay,
Was in there.
I wasn't in on the carnival.
Yeah, I feel though if I tried to rewatch season 1 of Heroes, I'd probably not like it now. I think I would see through the cracks.
Again, why I haven't gone back to Smallville, because I'm afraid.
You would definitely hate it if you go back and watch that.
Don't do it.
Granted, I'm a guy that enjoys Riverdale, so I'll deal with cheesy. That's fine and campy.
Smallville's worse than Riverdale.
Smallville's worse than Riverdale. There's something about Smallville. Every time Lana and Clark are on screen, you're like, neither of these two can act. Why did they think they'd have chemistry?
and I'm on the record as Smallville being my gateway into comics.
Yeah.
And I would say don't go back. Don't do it.
Anyways, Legion.
Yes.
So I'm with you on that one.
Is it? Remind me again. The guy here that's arguing with Brand. That's one of the fathers of.
That's Ultra Boy's.
Ultra Boy. I can remember which Legion member it was. It was his son, but
that's Joe Nah's dad. He's the General Nah of that planet of Rimbor. I did like seeing Mon-El basically just do the cocky Superboy thing.
Yeah.
So where he's like, don't tell me what to do, and that accent ends up with leading what looks like the return of Earth's oceans. Because that was my thing with the. I know that Bendis was trying to do the ravaged Earth type thing in this century with the Legion, but I do like that now it's starting to resemble.
Yeah, that's the big thing,
like
is that basically, like, when they unleash the power of the Trident, it actually brings an ocean, and what we see here at the end is that there's kind of an ocean forming around and under some of the pods. Because New Earth, if people haven't looked at the art in the comic or whatever, it's kind of like astrodomes that are kind of on like beams coming from a center, so it's kind of all these like different little pods. So now there's like water forming around them. So maybe at some point there'll be an atmosphere and they can take the pods down. I don't know, but
right, and that's where it looks like. So I thought that was really cool, nice little piece. And the Gold Lantern showing up. I mean, I have no idea what the Gold Core is gonna do, but I'll never not love the image of a Legion ring with a Green Lantern ring. That's such a cool. Or a Lantern ring.
I mean, I stopped watching around this time, but this reminds me of so much in Power Rangers Zeo when the Gold Ranger started popping up. It was like, oh, it's a Gold Ranger there. That's good.
Yeah, Zeo was weird, man. They had shapes and crystals, and it got sideways.
Yeah, that was the last one I watched. I don't think I watched all of it, but that was the last one I watched before I stopped watching as a kid.
I came back shockingly for Dino Thunder when I was in high school.
That said, I mean, as much as you can't beat the original theme tune, the Zeo one was quite catchy. Stronger than before, Zeo, faster than the car.
Was that before or after Turbo?
Before because that was still mostly the same cast of the originals.
Gotcha. Because I saw Turbo in theaters. I do remember.
I got as far up as the Turbo movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just kind of grown out of it, and then the changes were starting to happen, so it kind of became this thing. But anyway, so it ends with.
It is a cool visual. I don't know why the speculators are going nuts over Gold Lantern.
It doesn't seem like a big deal. It's not like because Punchline, you can kind of see Punchline being this like mainstay for a while, whereas Gold Lantern feels kind of minor.
I don't get it.
And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Gold Lantern will end up being hey, there could be a Gold Lantern series in a year's time for all I know. I don't know, but
but I just still it's very weird. I remember there being in Johns' action run, there was a hint of kind of like Triplicate Girl, where she could access the different emotions, but only I think red, blue, and green. And there was a mystery to that Johns set up that never paid off. So maybe Gold Lantern will be kind of along that lines. Like, why is this the only Lantern Corps still around?
I hope they call her RGB. I hope that's something.
I think that's what it was. I think it was RGB Girl or something. I can't remember.
RGB Girl.
It was something along those lines. I need to reread that.
I can't wait for HDMI Lad in the next run.
Yeah, don't. There is Matter Eater Lad. I can't wait till we get to Matter Eater Lad from Planet Bismuth. Like, one of my favorite Legionnaires.
Rimbor's basically rescinded their membership because of everything and said that they're not friends. The future is war, as he says as he's walking out at the end.
And I'm wondering if the Fatal Five, which is one of the big Legion supervillain groups, right? Validus and the Persuader. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that come to mind. But I wonder if that's where they're gonna pop in. Is because of Rimbor leaving, and this is gonna be like the Fatal Five's kind of their response to the Legion, or whatever. But no, I think Bendis is playing with the mythology just enough that it still feels like Legion without, without taking away from the other versions that have come before. Like this is distinctly like the fourth boot or whatever we're gonna call it. The fifth reboot is definitely all of his. So and it works, and it's good. Like you said, the art is
yeah, especially
really
it's shine in this issue because it's all these big spreads and action beats and yeah. Still a lot of characters been thrown around a lot though. I feel like we still have to have some quiet issues, just focusing on one or two characters per issue, just to really give them a chance to breathe and get to know some of them a bit better. But hopefully that's still to come. And I don't know if the issues where it's like every page is a different Legionnaire is kind of like, I don't know if I'm not thrilled with that idea, but we'll see.
I'm here for that.
Yes,
it sounds incredibly gimmicky.
Yes, it does. A gimmick that I don't think I'm going to be in love with. But hey.
I can't remember what whiskey I poured.
Yes.
Hey Pete, what drink is this for Connor?
This is at least number 4.
No, I can tell you because I've had going backwards, Talisker, Famous Grouse, and then before that I started on something else. So this is I started on Dalmore. So this is 4. I just don't remember what I poured.
You win.
I picked a bottle from behind me and I don't remember what it is.
Pete, you win. I'm just want to say it.
Thank you. Yeah. Nailed it.
I said I would probably have 4. That's not a dozen.
Yeah, we're not done yet. There's time for more.
Screw you both.
All right, Matt, what are you giving Legion 6?
I'm going to give this an 8. Mostly for the art. Because the story, I don't want to fault it because it's not Bendis' fault. There's a big break in between. I'm sure if this was out on a monthly basis, it wouldn't have been. But that art really is really good.
I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to go with a 7. I think the art is really good. The art is wonderful. And I think it does a good job of showcasing some big moments. I like the idea of Aquaman's trident being this mythical thing that then brings oceans back to the world. That's kind of cool.
Yep.
But, it's still a lot going on. I still need to sort of hone in some of these characters and so on. So, not like an astounding success, but still, I mean, I'll give it this, like, despite the fact that every single issue of Legion so far, I go into it thinking it's going to be intimidating, and sometimes the first couple of pages feel like they're going to be, and then Bendis always kind of manages to make it an enjoyable enough issue by the end, where I feel like I've gotten enough of a story that I've understood that I'm not feeling, alienated by. So, there you go. It's Legion Superiors issue 6. Lois Lane, number 11, Greg Rucka writing, with Mike Perkins on the art. This is Connor's second book of the week.
Third.
Oh, third, sorry. 3 whole books. There you go.
Rucka's gonna do what Rucka's gonna do, and low-key, this feels like a sequel to all of his works at DC.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah,
See,
I feel like I missed a lot in this issue by not having read enough of his previous stuff.
I don't know who this character that Kiss of Death turns out to be is, but from context, it still had enough weight from context because everything with Lois saying, put on the mask so she sees who you are, put on the mask, because Renee gets shot at the end of the last issue, she's dying there, and Midnight's kind of fighting off Kiss of Death, like one-on-one, and Lois is on the phone, she's like panicking because she blames herself for getting Renee shot. She's like, no, put on the mask, and Renee's like, oh, what the hell, why not, I'm dying. I'll put on the mask. And it's basically this thing that triggers the memories in Kiss of Death, so that Kiss of Death wants to help, and ultimately uses her life energy to like sort of bring Renee back or stop her from dying, which actually cures her and gives her or I mean, she already has memories, but kind of like cures her from the
skin.
Yeah, the skin thing that she had.
She's not just a skeleton anymore.
Yeah, so she's back. So we actually end this with like almost like a. I mean, this is actually kind of turned into like the best Birds of Prey book that we've had in a while, because it kind of
right?
It feels like a Birds of Prey team at the end almost.
Yeah. So this started with Rucka using Lois to take a stand on journalism, and now it's become a treatise on the multiverse and its current state in the DCU.
So, I'm assuming, Matt, you know who this Sanchez is better than me and Pete.
No, so I do.
Oh, okay.
I am familiar with the Religion of Crime. So as soon as they said she's a nun in the religion of crime. That was something that I remember reading. It ran through his Batwoman run with Kate Kane and Alice, her sister. And then it was in Final Crisis Revelations, where you had the Mark of Cain and it taking over Vandal Savage, and there was this whole thing with the Spectre. But I remember that being a big thing through Rucka's run.
Yeah.
So
I don't know about Pete, but for me, a lot of Rucka's classic DC stuff is kind of a blind spot for me.
No,
go back.
I'm familiar with a lot of the overall beats, but I haven't necessarily read much of it.
Yeah, it kind of is for me too. It's obviously something I want to go back and read. So much of it feels like ingrained in the time, though, that I kind of want to do it while I'm reading other stuff around it as well to sort of fit it into the puzzle.
All that stuff from kind of Infinite Crisis onwards, it kind of feels in that period where you kind of need to be really fully invested in everything.
So
don't get me wrong. One day on previously, we'll try to give like 2 slots to just this is the Infinite Crisis era of books, and we'll plow through a lot of the related material, but.
So I just found something that I have not read that somehow missed me in the 52 Aftermath, which was the Crime Bible, 5 Lessons of Blood, which was by Rucka. Maybe that's where this character comes from.
I did not realize Matt was such a fake DC fan. That's just shocking to me.
Big fake.
I feel bad because Matt being our resident continuity wonk.
Yeah.
I assumed he knew who this character was, and I kind of just put that out there, like, I'm sure Matt knows.
Yeah,
he's like, no.
It wasn't like the sister where I could, quick Google and sister was Mercy. Not Mercy.
Here's a point I want to make about this though, is that I feel like this issue to me proves, given the fact that none of us, not one of us, knew exactly who this character is, but as soon as Lois said put on the mask, I got why she was doing it. I got that she was trying to get her to remember Renee from this previous timeline. And I think this proves to me that even when you don't know the history that a comic is pulling from, or any story for that matter, if the story is well told enough, the context alone is enough to give it meaning in the moment. Even if it may not be as strong as someone who actually read that old stuff, but it still worked. I don't think this didn't work for any of us.
No, I agree. I think it's very clear immediately that this, of what it's doing, I think the story has established what it was doing well enough that I understood immediately, okay, this is what we're doing. Yeah. I feel the actual character's return didn't have the weight that it should have done because I haven't read that. And I did feel myself kind of aware that I wasn't getting the full weight, the full impact. But it was still very well told, enough that I understood what was going on. I just didn't get all of the emotion that I feel like I should have done.
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta go find this book because that's where that came from. Because it's about the faceless one. So that was all there.
There you go.
So yeah, once I'd seen that there was the religion of crime stuff, I started to make the gaps of it, and that clearly they know each other from a multiverse thing, which we already got with Jessica Midnight, right?
Yeah, it was all this.
Somehow she was also a witch, but she was also part of Checkmate, and so now Renee was has she always been the question here?
It's more pre-Flashpoint stuff, kind of like coming back, and it does it begs this question of how many characters could be triggered, like could their memories trigger if shown the right thing?
And knowing how closely Rucka and Bendis, right? I'm wondering if this is going to bleed into Young Justice with them.
That makes some sense.
No one remembers Connor or Bart and Cassie. And how
it literally just happened in Action Comics with Connor and the Kents.
That's right. Yeah. But I was gonna say, but then we also have how do Spoiler and Drake fit into this?
So
right.
So just on this particular character, I just Googled the name Alicia Sanchez. Right. So she's a real comedian who looks nothing like this character, which is a different thing. But basically, the comedian actually wrote to Greg Rucka. Knew Greg Rucka and Greg Rucka wrote them into an issue of DC's Crime Bible, in which they are a sex worker that falls in love with Renee.
Boom. Goddamn Rucka.
So that's where this character comes from.
Interesting. Do you know what?
It's a very minor beat by the sound. Pretty important in that issue, but minor in the context of DC history.
Well, because as far as I knew, Renee's most. I mean, was she with Maggie? Or is that just Kate? Kate's with Maggie.
Yeah.
Right? But Kate and Renee.
No, Kate's been with Matoya as well.
She's been with her, but I assumed you
Right.
meant right now.
Oh, right now. I don't know about right now.
Right.
I mean, there was Renee stuff in the Batwoman book where she was like, they were sort of like, they had that kind of
Right.
relationship
They
of
had
like,
the history, yeah.
yeah.
Right. And so yeah, but yeah, so no, I wasn't aware of any of Renee's other relationships.
I just want to say there's a couple of nice moments here that I really like. I love the moment where Renee comes out after she's better and she just goes straight up and kisses her, and then the nuns like awkwardness, like watching this.
Yeah.
Was kind of nice, but no, I love that final panel, that the final page as a whole, really, but where it's like Lois like rallying the troops, and you've got a nun Jessica Midnight Renee Montoya, who still looks like Michelle Rodriguez, by the way, and this artist formerly known as the Kiss of Death, all just lined up, like ready to take on. I don't know. I thought this was it was kind of. I felt like this issue kind of like brought a lot of elements together of what they've been doing with like remembering multiverse stuff and like building the team and all that. So it kind of feels like it's really set up its final issue now, which is cool.
And thus far, the only Rucka character that I'm really missing is Sasha Bordeaux.
Yeah. See if Rucka...
One issue left yet, Matt.
Right,
if
Rucka is willing to do a sequel to this, whether it's just another Lois Lane book or that it kind of spins out of this into either this team or Question or whatever, whoever he wants to like focus on as the main character. Like, if this leads to another Rucka like 12-issue series, I am all for it.
Because his Wonder Woman, and then this, they're both distinct and they're both kind of follow-ups to what he was doing in DC before he left to go just do create her own stuff. So I feel like he's getting to scratch that itch, because I feel like this is someone that really cares about this section of the DC universe. Like, he spent a lot of time building it, and then for him just to walk away from it, because of whatever happened post 52 and whatever, and Final Crisis.
Yeah, and the art's really good. Perkins has been has his moments of like falters, but I mean typically is up to a really good par. If we do get another one of these, like another 12-issue book, whether it's again Lois Lane 2 or something else, I do kind of like the idea that there's essentially an ongoing Rucka book. It just keeps changing every 12 issues to like whatever he wants to write next. Like, I'll take that.
I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that.
Whatever he's passionate about.
Yeah, but once I saw her start talking about the crime, I went, oh man, he's pulling all of his threads together here, just with one issue left, and it definitely, I'm like, no, I want more.
If I have
leave me hanging at 12.
On a broader spectrum, if I have not a complaint, but like a fear of this stuff, and then obviously what's going on in action with Connor and the Kents, is that this is happening earlier than I'd expect. If like Metal's going to fix a lot of things, that we may get all these memories back, and then Metal's going to ruin it by taking them all away again.
And see, that's why I feel like it's more like a 0 hour where we'll touch on certain things.
You're probably right. You're probably right, and I hope you're right. But there's a slight fear. There's just a little worry.
I think it's worth remembering that in another time, in another world, we would have already started the Generation one shots by now.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So I don't think necessarily that Metal is going to undo these things that you're worried about undoing. I think it's more just because it had to course correct and fill in these things that Generations was going to be doing.
No, I get
a little bit later than expected.
I get what you're saying. The stuff that's happening in this in action was maybe stuff that tied in more to what Generations was should have in theory been doing right about now already anyway. So yeah, that may be true. Also, I'm not pointing this out to be mean, but I've been generally confused for the past 10 minutes whether that Connor's got a pimple on the top of his nose or if there's something on my screen. And
no, I've got a cut
so
on my nose.
It's a cut. It's a cut. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's on you. Okay. I mean, I thought it was because it was moving with you, but like there was a while you were staying still enough. I'm like, is that on my screen?
Cut right there, and it's really irritating. It's been there for about. I'm surprised it's been there for about 2-3 weeks because I keep forgetting it's there and just scratching it and ripping it open again every 2 days, and it's really irritating.
Just don't touch your face, especially right now.
But I mean, I'm inside for days at a time. Of course, I'm going to touch my face. I'm not worried about spreading anything. It's just me, so I don't think about it.
Yeah,
I go, and it's
how you won't scratch. You know how you won't scratch that if you don't touch your face.
But I don't have a need to not touch my face for most of the time.
Yeah, scratching that thing open.
Well, yeah, I know, but I don't have the self-restraint to be aware of that all the time.
All right, let's get to ratings here.
Right, let's get you going.
Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm going to give this an 8.5. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Shocker, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Connor?
I'm going to give it 8, I also very much enjoyed it. It's excellent. It's held back by I was aware of the fact that I didn't know entirely what it was doing, and that kind of took me out of the moment a little bit.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I loved the discussion, so I'm going to say with Matt on this one. I've been bouncing either between you guys or in the middle between you, like all episode here, but I'll go with 8.5 as well. Really solid stuff. So that's Lois Lane. So finally here, we do, that's the last of the new books, but we do have a Patreon book here every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Some of the higher tier patrons get to make me or Connor read a book. So Connor's going to do his, I think his second one for the month. So you're getting them out early this month. You're like, I'm getting these out of the way.
Well, I actually looked ahead at what we've got over the next 2 weeks, and they're quite busy. So
that's fair. That's fair.
I thought these are the quiet weeks, so I'm going to get them done.
Yeah, I did not do that because reasons. So Connor's going to talk about Undiscovered Country issue 6. So Severed's on hold until presumably Undiscovered Country goes back on a break for some reason.
Yeah, which I think is interesting. If we hadn't had the break, probably would have been after this issue, because the image model as a rule is an arc, and then you have 3 months off, and in the second of those 3 months, the trade releases. But at the end of this issue, there is an advert that says issue 7 in July. So I'm assuming that's still the case.
I imagine it probably is. But presumably it'll go on break at some point or whatever.
I'm sure it will. Yeah.
And Tyler will make you go back to Severed. But at least for now, this is what you're on, so go for it.
I will say I was extreme. Well, first off, a pleasant surprise, given that this still was the normal price, I believe. I didn't really pay too much attention on comics last year. I just clicked buy, but I think it was the normal price. This was like a 40-plus issue, 40-plus page issue.
40-plus issue. Is it an omnibus? You got an omnibus this week?
I know. That would have been a real surprise, wouldn't it? I know, it was about 40 pages, which is, significant. And the first 2 pages were just 2 pages of prose recap, which I was extremely grateful for, given the scenario. I think, we've spoken on this show how about a lot of the books we've been quite fortunate with that they've kind of come back at the start of an arc, and it's been really lucky for them. That it's just felt like this kind of easy to just slip straight back into. This was issue 6 of the 6-issue arc, so not ideal for them.
Rough place.
A bit unfortunate. Obviously not their fault, but what can you do? So yeah, very grateful for the 2-page recap and very in depth. But this issue it actually starts with the Colonel, who I remembered once. It didn't actually tell me exactly what had gone on with him in the recap. It told me that he'd been taken prisoner. I was like, oh sure. But this issue starts with him on top of the wall, and I was like, oh yeah, the last issue had him climbing up, and it was this great moment. And it's basically him on the top of the wall, having a bit of a fight with the overseers, because he's a slave climbing the wall, trying to find the entrance. Is what they had him doing. They've chopped off his foot again. They chopped off his foot, if you didn't remember. And he has a bit of a fight, gorgeously rendered by Cameron Coley. It's fantastic. Colors are on fire. But basically, this,
just before you go ahead, if I remember, I don't remember anything about this, but never mind that a foot was cut off.
I'm really talking to you at this point, Pete. I'm talking to whoever is listening.
Okay, the audience. Okay, sure.
That's why I got up to use the bathroom, because I do want to read this eventually.
Sure.
And I don't want to be spoiled. So now I know a foot gets cut off. So thanks for spoiling, Pete.
I'm so sorry. There's a foot cut off. I'm sorry, I've ruined the whole thing. The whole thing rolls around the foot.
Yeah. This so he gets contacted. This is the Colonel who got kidnapped. He gets contacted by the rest of the crew, who are with who are trying to get to Uncle Sam. They're in the kind of land bikes, being chased by the fortress that the Destiny Man has. And they're like, look, we need to get to Uncle Sam. Can you see him from up there? And he looks around, and in arrives a wonderful contraption that is made up of 2 elements. One part of it is a space shuttle, like a really classic style space shuttle. And the other part is a blimp. Like attached together, both flying, this kind of crazy thing. And they're kind of like, hey, get in. We'll take you where you need to go. But he actually says, no, you guys go and collect, the rest of the group who aren't with Uncle Sam. Because with Uncle Sam, you've got the brother and sister, the Greaves. I think they're with them, and maybe one other. but everyone else is running away from the fortress. And he basically says to this group, "Hey, you go get them. I'm staying here. I'm going to just try and free as many of these slaves on the wall as I can." And this is kind of the end of his story. It's at least seemingly for now, is he stays behind while they're going to go through the wall to the next layer. He stays behind to just help these slaves, and maybe we'll see him again in the future. I don't know, but it feels like an ending for now. It's really strong, really good stuff that we've got in this opening of the issue. Is all this, but this is what we cut back across, and we have Destiny Man kind of catching up with the others, and Greaves, the brother, whose first name I'm forgetting, Major Greaves, we'll go with because that's his rank. Basically talks to Destiny Man. Is like, "Hey, we had a deal. You got to hold up your end," and he's like, "Yeah, fair enough. Here's." Your cure for the sky virus, which is one, his sister's infected with, who's here, and two, also the main thing that they came to America looking for is because this is ravaging the world. And he throws it to him, and it's basically like this big mutated snail thing. It's kind of weird. And he's like, "Hey, there's something you should know. I don't believe in destiny." And there was a trap from his previous mission to America that he tried to make before. He rigged his submarine with explosives in case he got captured, and he left those explosives there and blows it up while it's on Destiny Man's fortress. So it kind of blows it from the inside, and it's pretty extreme. But he gets on the train that Uncle Sam had with everyone else now, and they start driving towards the wall. Is driving the right word for a train? I don't know. It's kind of weird because there's no tracks that they're on. They're kind of just going across the land on this train. It's a weird visual. But anyway, they just start driving at the wall, and they're at the ninth star. This is the New Hampshire star because I assume they were the ninth state to join the Union. I guess a lot of this book is steeped in American history and mythology, and I'm not entirely familiar with all of it. And to be honest, I doubt most Americans are either. Let's be honest.
I think they know about our own history, never mind American history.
No, and I read a lot of history, but how many Americans could tell me the first 10 states to join the Union off the top of their head without just looking it up?
Yeah, Matt.
Huh?
The first 10 states to join the Union off the top of your head?
Probably. I'd have to name. I know the first one for sure.
Metropolis.
It's Delaware because they're also known as the first state.
Okay. Do you know the ninth state? Because that's the one that's relevant here. I mean, I'm assuming it's the ninth state given the context of the book, and it's the ninth star, so it makes sense.
Right. I'm going to guess Vermont.
Kind of close, I guess.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, yeah.
Yeah, it was one or the other. Because I remember because Vermont was really big.
Wait.
Yeah, the Green Mountain Regiment.
Hold on. There's a state called New Hampshire?
Yeah. We've Rhode Island, we have New Hampshire.
I thought I knew all the states.
I could name all 50 states, no problem.
I thought I did know all the states. New Hampshire's like...
Yeah, New Hampshire's right next door to Vermont, and they're both, how you remember it's Vermont? Vermont shaped like a V, right? When we look at its thing. But
kudos, Matt. My point was, I said I doubt most Americans could tell me that.
That whole section is known as New England. They all kind of, blur together. Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine. I mean, those ones all stick out, but New Hampshire and Vermont, yeah.
Do you know what? Vermont that was pretty close. When you said that, I was like, I mean,
they're right next door to each other, and I confuse them a lot. I just know Ben and Jerry's is in Vermont. So
the key selling point of the state.
No, it's the best. It's the only known thing that came out of Vermont. What's the damn, isn't it? I mean,
it's Super Troopers that takes place, I believe, in Vermont. The Green Mountain.
Look,
the Green Mountain Regiment during the Revolutionary War.
It makes sense that all the little states that are next to each other in that little clump are the ones that are hard to remember. All right, it's just.
But well done, Matt. You did better than I expected. I suspect you did better than a lot of Americans would have there.
Well, here's what I'm learning is a lot of Americans don't actually know history because they don't care to, and B, they're not taught it. You have to go out on a limb.
I would say most people don't know history, to be quite honest with you. And like I say, I'm amazingly familiar with all of American history, but the context of this book and the themes that it's playing with, it's kind of important, and it's clear that Soule and Snyder do care about American history.
They do.
Because I mentioned, I think it was in the last issue, again a while ago now, but the key to the door was the golden spike, which was like the last nail to be put into the railroad system,
the Transcontinental Railroad up in Utah, Promontory Point, actually.
Right, so that's the key to the door, and the door is at where the 9th star is on the wall, for at the border of the state of New Hampshire. So it's all very relevant of what they're doing here, and this book is what it's going to be going forward, is this journey, this spiral through America into the center, the heart of America, to meet Aurora. And it very much feels like this is the history and themes that it's going to be playing with as the purpose of the book, which it really fascinates me personally, as an outsider especially. But you have this train barreling towards this wall where this star is, and they're like, no, we're gonna just crash into the wall. What we're gonna do? And then a door opens up, like a big tunnel door, and guns come out of the top, like little, almost like turret guns. They stick out the wall, like opens up a slot for them to point down, and it rips shreds into all these people that are chasing after them, and they go into the tunnel, and the train tracks that they're on, it's just wooden planks, but the metal that they're on the sides is actually lit up. I don't know if it's lit. It feels like it's glowing and lit up, but I don't know if it's just the coloring. But it's red, white, and blue. It's kind of, it has this very patriotic feeling to it. And they get through, and they get to a checkpoint, and they get to a stage where there's a helicopter that's been left for them with the Aurora symbol on, and they have a choice here where they can leave now, or they can continue on through the journey. And it's worth noting that as they kind of came through here on the train, Uncle Sam was shot dead by the Destiny Man, so they're kind of on their own here. And they kind of like the major kind of like, look, I can fly us out of here, but I'm not being the one to take the vote. The rest of you can vote on whether or not we stay or not. I'll abstain. So they start divvying up, and it comes down to the sister Greaves, whose name again I'm forgetting because it's been months, and she's like, no, I vote we leave. Let's get out of here. We got a cure. But then they point out that this cure that they've got, it's only really one dose that they've got, and they could probably reverse engineer a vaccine out of this, but they wouldn't be able to cure anyone who had it. So, they one of the woman who's there takes it out of their hands. This is I think it's one of the journalists that's with them, and just injects her with the cure. And so she's no longer infected by the Sky virus. And basically, they go, well, so do you still want to leave? It's still your call. You're the tie-breaking vote. She's like, well, how can we now? We don't have the cure, which is what we came here for. We obviously we have to continue. So they get back on the train, and on they go. And then we do have a little epilogue, which is the Destiny Man who survived the explosion, who was outside the fortress as it happened, kneeling in front of the wall with the star where the door was. The door's now shut again, but the gun's still there. And he is begging Aurora, like, no, please let me through. I'll walk the spiral. I'll do anything to prove I'm worthy, but please just give me one more chance. And then the door opens, and that's the end of the arc. It's a fantastic issue. It really does pay off a lot of things. I wish I remembered some of the names better, and I think I would have done if not for the break. That's on me. I probably should have reread them, but I didn't really realize it was coming out this week until yesterday when I looked. But it is a great issue. I'm going to give it an 8.5. Really into this book, and the history and the themes that it's playing with as the purpose. It's very scarily relevant because this is a world where a virus meant America shut itself off from the world.
Shocking.
Yeah, it's hard not to draw these parallels, but you've got this time dilation thing going on where in America like 100 years have passed, whereas outside it's only been like 30 years.
Right.
Some really interesting stuff going on. It's great.
There's this map going around of during the height of the virus of like these pacts that states were making with each other, and people kept sending it to Soule and Snyder, and he goes, this is exactly how the research began for Undiscovered Country. Was like what would happen and everything they had read, because they're both big into doing research for projects and stuff, that it was starting to break exactly as the people they talked to thought it would. So it's really funny.
Yeah, they
That's
actually
how it
have
worked.
they each have a letter at the back talking about the situation and what's going on, and they talk about how because Giuseppe Camicoli, the artist, lives in Italy, so he was one of the first affected by lockdowns.
Right.
And they talked about how they've continued working on this throughout. It's kind of been this this anchor for all of the team, where they've kind of had something consistent to work at, that's felt relevant, like they could impart their experiences with what's been going on into the story without it feeling like they were just pushing into doing a reaction story, and it feel natural in this. So they've appreciated that between them, I think. But yeah, I'm really digging this. The themes it's playing with, the ideas that it's presenting, and what this book is as a statement from the team. I think this issue really kind of made that clear as to what it is. And again, really appreciate having a full double-sized issue at the normal price, because they don't have to do that. Image doesn't have to do that. So that's real good.
All right, cool. What's actually, I was just reading there because I wasn't listening to Connor, because why would I do that? But I was just reading there, and there was no comic books on sale basically during May, right? Everything's shut. Video games had its most successful its most successful May since 2009.
I'm not surprised.
That is, just goes to show.
I know I've played a lot more games than I was before because, well, hey, what else am I going to do?
But there you go, that is the books, which will take us on to the part of the show where we pick our favourite stuff of the week, their favourite panel/moment, favourite cover, favourite art, and our top 5 books. So interesting picks to choose from here. So Matt, what was your panel/moment of the week?
It's the next snap from Thawne to Godspeed.
Yeah, I have to just jump in here and say I'm picking that too, because like there's some great moments in some of the Joker stories. Obviously, there's some other good stuff, but yeah, that easily sticks out. This week as the moment. So, Connor?
Well, obviously I didn't read that, so it's not a...
Right. Just pick it anyways.
No, I'm going to go with the Justice League Advance page. That culminated the highlight of that book for me. That 3 or 4 page sequence. I thought that was a wonderful moment.
All right. Best cover here. I did take the time to look ahead. I sort of glanced at all the Joker covers, but I didn't want to burden myself.
None of them really stand out.
Yeah. For me, it kind of boils down to I like the regular Legion cover, although the variant's also good. And the regular Batman cover I thought were both really solid. I think in the end I'm going to go with the regular Batman cover, but it is really close. So that's me. Connor, what's your favorite cover of the week?
I'm just looking now. I'm a little bit annoyed at you, Peter, for not reading Batman's Grave anymore, because otherwise I could have picked the Quietly variant for that.
Yeah.
Well,
which I think is gorgeous.
I'm so sorry. I'm not reading the book just so you can pick the variant cover when we get to best covers of the week. How
you should be.
How just insensitive,
very inconsiderate
of me.
I think I'm going to go with the Justice League variant, the Clayman one. I think that's pretty nice.
Pretty
good. You good, Matt?
Yeah, so I'm looking through these. No, I'm really pop out. I think the Matteo Scalera Flash is pretty good too. Trying to get a bigger version of it.
Just a question for you guys. I'm looking at Diamond to try and see the.
I don't see Batman.
Yeah, I don't see Batman either. Did Batman not ship through Diamond this week?
I don't know. Well, I have it physically, so my shop got it, and they're using Diamond. So,
How bizarre.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Flash 755 with Scalera. It's Barry running with and there's multiple copies of him, and there's streaks and.
Honestly, stop using Diamond because it's not going to be there in a couple.
No, I'm only using it for the variants because nothing else has the variants available. That's the only reason I'm looking at it right now.
Liga Comic Geeks has them. See if you click on the issues, you get the variant underneath.
Oh, does it? Okay. Because obviously Diamond has them all listed separately.
Yeah, so and it'll have, if there's multiple variants, they'll all be there underneath the main cover when you click on the book. So you have to click on the books to see them, but they are there. So that's what I've been doing.
I didn't realize that. Otherwise, in that case, I would have.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing the last few weeks anyway. So okay, that's best cover. Best art of the week. I'll jump in first here. I mean, it's definitely not Batman.
No.
Justice League's got a contender here, as does Legion of Superheroes. Lois Lane obviously not too shabby. Joker has some great art and individual stories, but not as a whole.
Not across the whole thing, yeah.
So I think I'm going to edge it to Justice League, but it's very close. But I think ultimately the big money moments in Justice League just wowed me a little bit more than the big money moments in Legion of Superheroes. But that's where I stand. Matt?
I'm on with Legion. I really like that.
Yep. I don't
It's real
fault
good.
it. Alright.
I think by default for me it has to be Justice League, and that's not to say Justice League is bad. It's still pretty good, but I think in a better week it probably wouldn't have stood out as my best art, just because it's it's two artists doing its thing. But obviously compared to Batman, it's no contest. And Lois, while solid, I don't think is in the realm of great art. So yeah, Justice League.
All right, Matt. Top 5 books of the week.
So number 1 is going to be Flash, right? Hold on. I gotta look at them. I don't know if that's right.
I don't know if that's right.
I know I gave Flash high marks. Get out of there. Legion was the last thing I was looking at. All right, this is taking a minute. My iPad's acting up. Oh, there we go. All right, let's look. Yeah, number 1, Flash. Number 2, Lois Lane. 3, Legion. 4, Justice League. 5, Batman.
Okay, Connor?
Yeah.
I will go with Lois, Batman, and then Justice League. I think it's really funny that Justice League had for me, my favorite art and panel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it still ended up bottom of my list here overall.
Yeah. I think my number 1 is probably Lois. Number 2 will be. This is a weird week, you know that?
It is, isn't it?
This is kind of a weird week. Yeah, number 1 is Lois. Number 2, I think I'm going with Batman. And despite the art. And then number 3, I'll go with Legion. Number 4, I'll go with Flash. No, number 4 I'll go with Joker. 5 I'll go with Flash. But yeah. Did I leave it Justice League?
Oh no, I
I
wasn't
didn't hear you
listening.
say it. I didn't hear you say it.
Alright. I was confusing myself. Number 1, Lois Lane. Number 2, Batman. Number 3, Legion. Number 4, Justice League. Number 5, Flash. There we go. I'll leave Joker off because it's kind of a weird thing to rank, but there are some really worthwhile stories in there too. So, there you go. Top 5. All right, there you go. So I will thank our patrons. If you made it all the way to the end of the show on YouTube, type the word. See, the joke word that I would pick for this is really obvious, but it's also not appropriate and may get flagged. So.
You could tell them all to comment about glory holes.
I was going to say leave the word, but don't, because it'll probably get flagged. YouTube will flag it.
People will approve it anyway. It's fine. Just go ahead.
But no. Put in the word.
Don't do that.
No, put in the word punchline. Punchline's the word of the week. So if you made it to the end in the YouTube, put in punchline in the comments. But yeah, if also liking is really important on YouTube. It lets YouTube algorithm know that we're worth recommending out. And also check out the Cults of the Multiverse YouTube channel with all the cut-up versions of the shows and all the rest of it. And it will be the exclusive home on YouTube at least for previously soon. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, Zammer Jammer, and Board Now. A couple of new ones there, so I had to think about that.
Zammer Jammer, I approve of the name.
Yeah. So thank you to those. They're all $20 and above patrons. You can support us for as little as $1 per month, however, at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses for your trouble. Specifically for this show, at the $5 tier, you get all the multiverse shows a day early, the full versions that is, and you get to vote occasionally on stuff for previously when there's a vote for that. So go and have a look and see if you're interested.
Do you know what people who aren't patrons get anyway? They get to know what's coming next week.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true. well, just let me finish my plugging then. Get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, and yeah, I guess that'll do. So yes, I'm always putting Twitter separately at the end. I may as well finish off.
It was
the
just
little...
I'm gonna finish it. Like you had so much left, and it was just like, oh, it's just that.
Piss off. So yes, coming next week. We got the Flash Annual number 3, which, as we mentioned earlier, is actually equally important to Suicide Squad by Taylor. So that's definitely something we'll be checking out. Wonder Woman 757 is out. Nightwing Annual issue 3 is out. Superman 22. We got Strange Adventures issue 2. Finally, it's been so long since issue 1.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to that. I'm probably gonna have to reread the first issue.
Yeah. Young Justice 15 is out. Of course, Dark Knight's Death Metal issue 1. So that's kind of the main event next week. Obviously. We got the Question the Deaths of Vic Sage issue 3. So fairly nice to get back to that Lemire book. Green Lantern season 2 issue 4 is out. Hawkman 24 is out. Batman the Outsiders 13. Wonder Woman Dead Earth issue 3, which I think is that the final? No, I think it's the second last.
No, I think it is the last.
Is it the final?
No, I think it's only 3.
Okay, fair enough. Alright, that's the final issue of Dead Earth then. I'll find out when I read it, I suppose, if not. We got Event Leviathan Checkmate issue 1. Oh, it's a big week next week, man. We got some goodies.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's like
Checkmate and Metal.
between us, we have about 10 books next week, and some of those are oversized.
And also, Daphne Byrne 5 and Metal Men 7 are also out. Obviously, we don't cover everything I just listed, but we're covering a lot of it next week. So, yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to Strange Adventures, Death Metal, Vic Sage, and Checkmate. I've got a few biggies there that I'm excited about. Cool.
Yeah, believe it or not, Pete, this is why I did my Patreon books, because the week after is even bigger.
Well, I'll do a Patreon book next week because, do you know what it is? It's just these 100-page things make me really not want to do extras, even though technically there may be more pages next week than there was this week for me, but it won't feel it because I can spread them out.
No, it's not next week, but the week after has the Green Lantern 100-page out on top of like 11 other books.
I'll do a Patreon book next week then. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. So, yes, I'll be talking about American Vampire next week. Yeah, I look forward to that. So, there you go.
That next week's insane.
That is the show. That has been episode 206. So thank you very much for joining us. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember punchline in the comments in the YouTube if you made it to the end, or even just the last time I said punchline. If you skipped this last part, that's fine.
You don't know that we've just said this.
Exactly.
Pointless.
So thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, guys, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Denny O'Neill's a legend.